Hello, everyone. It's the Stardom cast. We are live 29th of December. And ladies and gentlemen, happy Dream Queendom Day for all those that celebrate. It's been a good day. It's possibly been more exciting than Christmas, but that might just be me, Matt Turner, my lovely co-host. How the devil are you, good sir?
I'm great, brother. I am great. I am excited to talk about possibly the best wrestling show I've seen all year. Now, I've not finished World's End because I did watch the first three matches and then I went to bed for about 3 hours. And then it's been rocking and rolling ever since. But man, I'm great. I'm great. Feel great. Holidays are terrific. You literally have after Christmas, you have Dream Queendom, and then you have the New Year. So sandwiched right in the middle was this show that, with the exception of one match, this was
Well,
damn, yeah, damn, yeah. Well, obviously we'll discuss. It's what we're here for. This is a damn near perfect show. Damn near perfect show. Just great matches. One of the best Wonder of Stardom Championship matches of all time. We witnessed a near murder in the main event on more than one occasion. Shout out to former World of Stardom champion Kagetsu in said match, which we'll get to. Maybe the most violent match in the history of Stardom with that no DQ match. Just really great. I mean, maybe one of the best pay-per-view openers of all time with that just unbelievable old school style psychology Goddess of Stardom match. And I'm really excited for the future. Really excited for the future. And I'm sure we'll get into the news. We are going back to the Yokohama Arena in about 4 months' time. So company's white hot, my man. Company's white hot, considering we were scratching our heads the last 6 or 7 months, kind of, or the first 6 or 7 months of this year, saying, what's going on with the booking? And it's just, we got to sell out. We got to sell out at Sumo Hall. Just, man, it was exciting. It was exciting. Like a kid on Christmas, as you said, buddy. I didn't get much sleep last night. I was tossing and turning, just waiting for my 2:00 alarm to go off. Finally, around 1:45, I was like, I'm going to get up because I know the pre-show started at 2:45. I'm going to get up. I'm going to get ready to rock and roll. And I've been pretty much up ever since, my man, and no complaints. But other than your hairstyle looking 7 stars in the Sumo Hall Dome, well, not the Tokyo Dome, how are you today? But in that sweater, folks, look at him. He must have a hot date going on afterwards because he's terrific. Oh, speaking of terrific, sorry, I cut you off. My new chair. I'm sitting in my new chair. I posted pictures of it online. I was in this chair for 6 hours yesterday, and I felt terrific. So my new chair, Kurt, I don't know if my mother-in-law is watching. I'm not sure. I doubt it. But thanks to my fantastic mother-in-law for getting me this brand new chair. So, which didn't come in with instructions. Amber was assembling it together yesterday. She's like, there's no instructions on it. And then she finished. I said, what happened? She's like, I looked on YouTube, and then after I put it together, the instructions were underneath the chair, which is another comedy scene. Brother, it's never a dull moment here at the, I would say, the Turner household, the Amber household. You've been in my house before. I don't run anything. I just lucky enough to pay the bills. But it was like, oh, you sound that together? Yeah, it was under the chair. But brother, I'm great. How are you doing on this fantastic Sunday we're having here? Dream Queendom Sunday, brother.
Yeah, indeed. It was a really good show from start to finish. Certainly one of the best pre-show matches we've had in the YouTube era anyway, with Sayaka Kurora and Ronnie Yagami. It was a brave decision to put a 15-minute time limit draw on the pre-show, but I thought they absolutely smashed it out of the park. Again, two absolute Stone Cold classics in your semi-main and your main event. Obviously, Micah and Tora tore it up literally and meant like figuratively. Poor Micah just absolutely pouring blood from about 35 seconds into the match. But yes, we're going to get into all of that. We sold out Sumo Hall. We've got all new champions heading into 2025. It does feel very much like a reset for Stardom heading into 2025. Saya Kamatani now on the top of the card. Starlight Kid, this huge star that we know Stardom are massive on, not just in terms of marketing, but in terms of in-ring as well. She is now ascending to that main event and, it feels like she belongs there. She came out today in that beautiful all-white gear, looked incredible. And the match itself was tremendous. Incredible chemistry between the two. Everything hit. Absolutely everything hit aside from that one match, which we will talk about very shortly.
Well, Shuri did hit. As much as that match didn't hit, Shuri did hit Konami twice very hard, which again will kind of a head scratcher, but we will put a positive spin on it. As me and you were texting each other early this morning, I was like, well, here's the positive that came out of it. So yes, but hello to everybody. I mean, we love doing these live podcasts. It's special because we only do them once on the big shows. Obviously, Dream Queendom, All-Star Grand Queendom, the 5-star Grand Prix finals, and then with Marigold, depending on what their full schedule is going to look like going into their next year, their first full year. But these are always fun to do. And I always make sure that I look my Sunday best, as it is technically Sunday, and I did go to church. But as much as I looked my Sunday best, as soon as I logged on, I was like, Rob looks better than me. So at least I'm the second best looking man on the Stardom Cast podcast today. So
what can I say?
Nothing wrong with silver, like they say in Talladega Nights. Nothing wrong with silver. But I appreciate everybody joining us, whether you're watching this live or I know sometimes because it's an early day. A lot of people watch the Stardom show live, so I know in the next day or two, a lot of our fans will either listen to this in the audio or the video realm. So we really, really appreciate this whenever you are listening to this. But yeah, I'm excited to review again. Just another. This is 4 Dream Queendoms, and in my opinion, 4 Grand Slams that they hit. I mean, this is just another solid show from Stardom.
Absolutely. And just doing a quick comment count. It's former co-host of the Stardom Cast, Chris, is on Twitter. Hello, Chris. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Recently got engaged. So massive congratulations to Chris.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Darren Chatton, big Darren. Absolutely. Sunderland fan is Darren. And I would ordinarily have gone to the Stoke game today, but didn't go to the Stoke game because of Dream Queendom. And Stoke actually won for a change. That never happens, Matt Turner. So I apologize, Darren. Hopefully, again, I don't support Stoke. I just go. But fingers crossed, Dream Queendom made you feel a little bit better. Andy Hedder says the last 2 matches were great, 5 stars. Could not agree more, Andy. Especially Natsupoi and Starlight Kid. I felt like really was. That's one we're going to be talking about in the annals of great Wonder of Stardom championship matches. We talked all the time about how the Wonder of Stardom title has sort of been synonymous with these fantastic matches, the Momo and Jungle matches, the entire of Sayaka Matani's run, Io's run, all these fantastic matches. Arissa's run, exactly. It just goes on and on and on. And I think that Starlight Kid today and Natsupoi, that's going to take some beating. I might rewatch it because obviously with recency bias, there's a tendency to overreact to say, oh, it's the greatest Wonder of Stardom championship match ever. I do think it's one of the best ever. I'm just going to put this out there. But it's a case of, is it better than Sayaka Matani and Hazuki? Because that's my threshold. This was tremendous. It's a case of, is it going to be 1A or is it going to be 1B or 1C? That is where I am in regards to that match.
I just rewatched it. I was like, I have a little bit of time, and I was like, I'll get in the podcast room an hour and change early before we do this, and I was going to watch World's End because I heard it was a great pay-per-view, and like I said, I got to the 3rd match, and I'm like, all right, I need to go to bed. I'm like, no, I'm going to rewatch. I rewatched the tag match, and I rewatched Starlight Kid.
I don't need to help myself. I'm just going to stay up even longer. I've been up since 2 a.m. Who cares?
I'm off 14 days from work, my man. What? Like, my body does not know what to do. It's like, what are you doing? It's 6 o'clock. You should be in the gym. But now I feel great. The fact that I'm getting extra sleep, it makes a world of difference. So you're going to get super positive, energetic Matt Turner today, folks. So watch out. But no, I just rewatched it, partner, and it's definitely, again, we'll talk about it when we get there. I think it's in my top 5. Again, it's something we'd really, really have to hammer out, and just that crowd reaction for the whole show. We always say a lot of times with Japanese crowds, with the exception of those old Abdul the Butcher matches, those crowds are kind of in Japan a little bit quiet, a little bit respectful. And the Stardom shows we've been seeing, the crowds are more and more into it. And it really seemed, especially from the Ron Yagami Sayaka Kurora match on that they were willing to go. And I thought they were going to lose the crowd, especially after the Konami Shiri kind of match.
Yeah.
And then I was like, uh-oh. And then Micah started bleeding, and she was kind of like, because she's the big baby face and Tor's the big heel, because the crowd was kind of, they were popped a little bit when those crazy weapons came out. They were still kind of quiet. And then once Micah made her first comeback, the crowd was all about Micah, and then they never lost him, which just goes to show you what a huge, huge star Micah is and will be for Stardom in the next few years. So, and again, I can't wait to talk about just that, and just the fact that those last 3 matches, the losers were really kind of the winners, because they got over so much looking at the lights. It's like, and that's an art form to itself. And Andy Headers, I know he's on the chat. He knows, he can tell you that there's many a time I'm looking up at the lights and I can't figure out how to get over as a loser. So, and he'll probably chime in any second, like, damn right. But the fact that Tam, Natsupoi, and Micah, all losses in those last 3 matches, came out bigger stars than they did going in, that's a huge art form. Huge art form, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Just again going through some of these comments. Colin Matthew, hi, how are you? Ugh. I struggled to say how are you then, Colin. I don't know why. How are you? We've got Maida as well. Maida says hello, Maida. We've got Jeff Bugenhagen in the chat as well. So Jeff has just said, so Matt Turner is really Mikey Whipwreck. Yes, that is the best parallel I've ever heard for Matt Turner. Yes, he is the Mikey Whipwreck.
Mikey Whipwreck's bald. I actually bumped into him at the AEW Collision tapings I went to back in the summer, and I was getting a beer, and I was walking by, and I'm like, I think that's Mikey Whipwreck. And then like somebody said, oh, Mikey Whipwreck was over here, and I'm like, oh, so Mikey Whipwreck's bald, my friend, and I'm nowhere near on my best day as good as Mikey Whipwreck on his last day. Mikey Whipwreck beat the Sandman and stunning Steve Austin all in the same year. I couldn't do that if I tried. So, but I appreciate that. I'll take that as a compliment. I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, let's take it as a compliment. I'm sure it was intended, Jeff. But no, it's like I say, we've got a lot to talk about in regards to the numbers, in regards to winners, losers, all of that good stuff. I am only going to do a little bit of the news because I do want to sort of dedicate the main bulk of this live podcast to the show itself, because obviously these shows ordinarily take about 3 hours to do, ironically almost as long as the actual pay-per-view itself. So I don't want to sort of bore you with little bits of news, but there are 2 bits that I do just want to talk about. Someone in the chat's just said Vikingo is injured again, which is horrible. Supposed to be coming to the UK, I believe, in the near future. We have though got Tam Nakano, who again we've spoken about today already, and we are going to talk a little bit more about, just a smidgen about later on. She is going to be appearing in Just Tap Out on the 10th of January. Obviously, we saw her in tag team action against Misa Kagura at New Blood on the 26th. She is going to be facing Misa Kagura in singles action. That is going to be taking place on the 10th of January in Shinjuku Face. Matt, that is going to be a very, very tasty show, not just because of that, but also because we have Tomoka Inaba versus Meiko Satomura. Just slid in there. So that, as well as everything else, is going to make that a very, very, very tasty matchup, isn't it?
Isn't Aoi versus Rina Yamashita on that show too? I saw that card and I was like, boy, howdy, they're really... Taka Michinoku is trying for a 2025 Promoter of the Year, but again, how do we watch this? How do we watch this? Put up a streaming thing or YouTube, or like I'm all about supporting, you know, the sport that is pro wrestling, like the media that is pro wrestling. How do I pay for this other than me flying over to Japan right after I have to go back to work and watching this? Yeah, let us know. They really need to trying to find a way to stream this to make a few bucks, because I'm sure bringing in Meiko Satomura isn't cheap, and bringing Tam Nakano in isn't cheap. And obviously they're going to sell a lot of tickets to that venue, but they can make a really, really good buck putting that on some sort of streaming service, having Meiko Satomura on her retirement road, and she's absolutely crushing it. And, an interesting new look Tam Nakano, obviously no longer World of Stardom champion, which obviously we will get into when we talk about that epic main event with her and Saya Kamatani, which must be a rite of passage. Anytime they're wrestling in Sumo Hall, they have to up the danger level, you know?
Well, it's interesting because friend of the show, Armani Shoe Exchange, posted something rather interesting. And it's something that I quite like the chat to get in on as well, because I know that Tam can be a little bit of a divisive figure. Not necessarily in terms of her in-ring work, but just as a general character. But she has been in the main event now of the three legitimate. Let's just get that out of the way. We're not classing the 32 million people that turned up to Yuzuki Aikawa's retirement show in 2013 as an actual legitimate attendance. So those three big shows for Stardom have had Tam Nakano at the top. And Armani's point on Twitter, I believe, was she has to be classed now as someone on that Stardom Mount Rushmore. And it actually got me thinking, like, does Tam actually, we always think that on that Stardom Mount Rushmore, at least you have got freedom. Mayu, Io, and Kairi. Is Tam, and I know that me and you agree that the other one is Momo Watanabe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, the question is, does Tam, who has now been only the third person in the company's history to have that red belt twice, one of a handful of people to hold the white belt twice, runner-up in the 5-star Grand Prix, been at the very top of their biggest selling shows. Does Tam Nakano deserve a place on that Mount Rushmore now?
It's a great question. And again, it's subjective.
Very good question.
It's subjective. Again, you can put the clown in there, buddy. There it is, 17 minutes in. You can put the clown in. It's subjective.
Enough,
It's subjective, but I put the freedom in there. Obviously, Mayu, Io, Kairi, and Momo Watanabe. And, you can put Julie in there, Utami in there, Shuri in there. I mean, again, it's the lineage of this company, Nanae, Yuzuki Ayakawa. I mean, I can go on and on. The lineage of this company over 13 years and where it's going to go in 2025. It's absolutely insane. It really, really is. So the way that I look at this is you look for the drawing aspect, right? Again, I compare pro wrestling to MMA because we look at pro wrestling as kayfabe. It's a shoot, and MMA is the biggest shoot thing. That's what we compare it to. Dana White even said the whole reason why UFC got saved is back 25 years ago, he started promoting it like pro wrestling. So Conor McGregor is the biggest draw in the history of MMA. The numbers don't lie. Is he the best fighter? No, not even close. He hasn't won a fight in 4 or 5 years. Will probably never fight again because he's got like $100 million and he's never going to enter the USADA pool because he's supposed to be fighting at 155 and he's bigger than me. But anywho, another story for another day. What I'm trying to get at is, as far as in-ring work goes, again, it's subjective. I think Tam's fantastic, but you have to say she's one of the biggest draws in the history of the company. And here's something to compare it to. And I was talking to Darren just for a brief moment today. What Tam the nod over Kairi? Sure. I mean, that's again, it's subjective. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Do you know what? Actually, Matt, I was just going to say that'll be the debate. Kairi versus hello, Armani. I hope you're doing very, very well. Fingers crossed that we see you in Vegas. But yeah, it's interesting with the Kairi debate because arguably Tam has achieved more than Kairi has. I know that Kairi won the 5-star Grand Prix, red belt, white belt. Yeah, absolutely. But what Kairi has for me over Tam, and again, I think they are sort of interchangeable, if you will. Sure. I think the thing for me is you look at where Kairi succeeded in the year and the fact that we were just coming off the back of all of the Yoshiko stuff and trying to pull Stardom out of this dark shadow that, very realistically could have pulled the company under and out of business. And it was Kairi, Io, and Mayu that pulled them out of that. And I think that does get them significant points because you could argue that Tam has done all her greatest stuff with one of the greatest rosters in modern wrestling. So there is that aspect of it. I do, however, think, as Armani has said, that she has been in a lot more important matches. Because as he said here, Tam's been in Stardom a lot longer than Kairi was and has been in a lot more important matches. But again, you look at when Kyrie was on top of that card and how hard it was, lower drawing cards. You look at the Coricans from then to the Coricans now, for example. Okay, there's a noticeable shift. The roster a lot better now than it was back in 2015, 2016. So anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
No.
Please continue.
So anywho, I'm talking about drawing power. That's why I made the Conor McGregor, reference, because he's the biggest draw in the history of MMA, not the best fighter, right? So again, look at and I was talking to Darren, our buddy Darren, chatting there just a little bit today when he gave me the number of over 4,000. This did, Rob, and obviously we'll get into the numbers in a little bit, around 1,000 more than Marigold Summer Destiny, which was a great show. What was that drawn on the back of? The return of Io Sky, and Utami, a dream match, really two dream matches, because we knew Julia back in the beginning of the year was on her way out to the WWE. So we knew when Marigold started, we were getting her on borrowed time, and we got sorry. So we literally got a phenomenal undercard and two back-to-back dream matches that really, really over-delivered. That drew a little over 3,000. This did a sellout of over 4,000. Now, if you remember, it might even been a Marnie Shoe Exchange that I was talking to about this, that I saw his tweet. It was about 2 or 3 days after the Saya made the challenge to Tam. Tickets flew off the shelves. And I know to you it wasn't an official match because it didn't have a graphic. Bear with me, brother.
It doesn't have a graphic. It's not official, okay? It's not hard, people.
Just bear with me. And I think I'm almost positive it was a Marnie Shoe Exchange saying 11 out of 14 of these sections have sold out 2 or 3 days after this challenge from Korakuen Hall. My guess, Rob, that's probably roughly around 3,000 tickets. So again, I'm going back to the ticket selling thing, right? Tam versus Saya. And we don't know this for a fact. Maybe, hopefully someday we'll get the numbers. Just the announcement of Stardom, Tam versus Saya, very well could have drawn more tickets than the combination of Io versus Utami and Sari versus Julia, which is insane to think about. And again, Budokan Hall, 3,100 people. I think it was something like that, 31 or 3,300 people. All-Star Grand Queendom. You had Mayu on that, Mayu versus Mercedes. We've been waiting for that match with the culmination of Saya Kamatani and Mina Shirakawa, which I don't know if you've seen, by the way. That might be a match that we're going into in 2025, which that's going to be huge. What was the main event? It was Tam versus Julia. They drew their biggest crowd. It was like 5,500. So yeah, I mean, Marnie Show Exchanges, he's great with the numbers, and I love, me. Wrestling is wrestling, it's subjective, but the numbers don't lie. And Armani's one of the best people that I go to on social media when it comes to the numbers, because it's the numbers don't lie. And again, there's a very good possibility that Tam and Saya, just on their, again, I know no match graphic, but again, another story for another day, brother. They could have sold more tickets just on that than Io's return in that dream match with Utami, which is insane. So does Tam belong on that Mount Rushmore? At the end of the day, brother, it's a business. It's a business. And she may be right up. Obviously, Mayu's been there since day one. When you talk about the biggest money drawing wrestlers in Stardom's history, Tam's got to be 1 or 1A. It's either her or Mayu. Even in Io's prime, those Korakuen Hall matches she's had with Kairi and Mayu. Granted, the rest of the roster wasn't loaded as it was from 2021 until now. They're doing 800-900 people. Tam as champion. And here's something else, too, I'm glad you brought up. A lot of people were giving Tam a lot of flack because she was 0-6 in the 5-star and got that championship match with Tora. That championship match with Tora.
I mean, technically, she was 0-4 when she got the championship. She went 0-6. She was 0-4 at the time. Come on, let's give her some credit.
Bear with me, handsome. So, see, Rob is the best for numbers. I'm telling you, there's nobody better knowing Stardom stats than Rob Goodwin. I'm telling you, and hair apparently. But anywho, so she was 0-6 going into that match. They drew like something like 2,000 people. Now you can say, well, Matt, that was the finals of the 5-star. Okay, I'll give you that. Tam wins that match with no momentum, really no build, other than just her losing. Again, the secret to losing, my friends. This is something. Micah match draws well over 1,000. Suzuki match draws well over 1,000. Every single Korakuen Hall that she's been on since she was champion, we're right around 1,000 or 1,000 or over. This match with Saya Kamatani, over 4,000 people. So we already have the Discord going, and we're going to get into this later because I really, really want to talk to you and everybody else in the chat. We announced that in 7 days after WrestleMania, by the way. So you're going to be sick of me in April. I'll tell you that. A week after WrestleMania, we're going back to Yokohama Arena.
Mm-hmm.
What's the big match going to be? I think Saya's still going to be the champion. A lot of people are saying Micah. I got no problem with that. But we already have the story with Saya forcing Tam to put the belt on. Can you imagine?
It was great.
And it's not over. Tam's promo, I don't know if you saw the promo backstage. She was spitting vinegar. Tam Nakano, the cutest of the cosmos, she wasn't having it. So can you imagine if you build Tam up properly over 4 months and you redo that match in Yokohama Arena? Is that going to sell 4,000 tickets? I think if you put on a really good undercard, it could sell 5,000 because that story is not over. But you can do Micah. There's a million different wrestlers you can do on that with Saya Kamatani because there's so much in the pipeline. There's so many wrestlers waiting for the red belt, waiting for the white belt. There's so many things that you can do. So if they run that back in 4 months, because eventually Tam's got to get her win back, right? Because she's lost now 3 to Kamatani in Sumo Hall in a row. Now, but the other ones, they were both baby faces. But now, like, she's got to get the win back. So if we build Tam back up, do we draw that 4,000, 5,000? Sure worked here with really no momentum for Tam going into that red belt run, and she drew everywhere. Can you imagine Tam on an absolute roll, building that back up? It's an easy story to tell because there's money in the chase. So Armani has a really good shout. Does Tam belong in that Mount Rushmore conversation? 1,000%. Maybe I'm just so entrenched into the freedom. I don't want to let that go. I don't want to let that go. At the same time, it's Tam. That's my girl. You know what I mean? Walking the Tam Road, it's Tam time. So it's a really great it's a great conversation. It's a great conversation. And by all means, folks, as we're chatting here, who's in your Mount Rushmore? Who's the 4 in there? Is it Tam? Is it Utami? Is it Io? Is it Yoko Bito? Is it Arisa Hoshinki? Is it Tony Storm, the only wrestler to win the new rookie on AEW, Tony Storm, the only wrestler to win the 5-star Grand Prix and the Cinderella tournament in the same year? Is it Fukian Death? Is it Goken Death? Is it the human Cadillac Dorian DeVille? Is it Rob Goodwin? Let us know who is in your Mount Rushmore of Stardom, because it makes for a great conversation, and there's really no wrong answer. There really isn't, because it's all subjective. But Armani makes a really, really good shout, and like I said, her and Mayu, as far as top draws go in this company, they're probably 1 and 1A in the 13-year history, and she's not done, because what if they do run that match back with Saya, or they do Tam and Mayu at Yokohama Arena and it does 5,000, 6,000? Then we really need to take a look at this and say Tam might be the biggest superstar as far as ticket draws go in Stardom's history.
It's an interesting one, certainly. Jeff Bugenhagen, and this is the complete flip side of the coin in regards to the sort of the Tam and Kairi debate, if you want. He says Io, Kairi, Mayu, and Kagetsu. I mean, big up Kagetsu. Love Kagetsu. But interestingly, and again, it's really interesting to see the flip side of this. Someone that wasn't really sure or wasn't really aware of Stardom initially. He says Kairi also gets points for bringing in a lot of new fans. She went to America and never lost her roots. Also, first IWGP Women's Champion, and then said I got into Stardom because I saw Kairi in WWE and had to go back to see where she came from. Exactly. That's absolutely 2 marks in Kairi's column that Tam doesn't have. IWGP Women's Champion, first champion, inaugural champion, historic moment. Great match with Mayu. And then obviously, the going over to America, bringing eyes over to Stardom, which is obviously something that Io has done as well. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. Colin says Mayu, Io, Kairi, again, those 3. And then Shiori.
Great
on my Mount Rushmore. And that's really interesting because obviously Shiori didn't debut in Stardom until 2020. So to have that sort of impact in 4 years on someone is really, really tremendous. We've got some people as well who've got ideas for main events for All-Star Grand Queendom coming up in April. But before we get into that, obviously Matt's already touched on it.
Real quick, I just want to say something. If you want to do the Kairi versus Tam debate and you're on the Kairi side, who did Kairi squash at the Tokyo Dome a couple years ago? The less said about that, the better, though.
To be honest, I thought it got a minute or so too much.
Oh my goodness.
I think they could have easily told that story in 2.5 minutes.
Next subject.
I tell you what, we're going to be having a very different conversation if they only give Mayu and Azumi 2 minutes. Jesus. However, yes, obviously on this show, Stardom, whenever it's the big pay-per-view, we get the calendar for the next couple of months. So Stardom have obviously given their big shows for the first quarter of this month. We had a video package that announced that we have got the Cinderella tournament coming up. Obviously, that is confirmed for March the 8th. We have got, as Hannon announced in Toshigi a couple of weeks ago, we are having that big show in Utsunomiya on the 24th of February. That's coming up as well. Not named as of yet, but it is confirmed for the Utsunomiya Light Cube. And then the biggest news coming out of that video package is that All-Star Grand Queendom will be returning at the end of April, 27th of April 2025. And Stardom are going back to the Yokohama Arena. Obviously, the first All-Star Grand Queendom, March 2023, was in Yokohama Arena. Obviously, really good vibes for Stardom. Their biggest ever soul-promoted house got drawn there, 5,539 people in attendance that day. Tam on top of the card, just going back to what we were talking about before. Obviously, the year after, they went to the brand new Yokohama Buntai. We are going back in 2025 to Yokohama Arena. Me and you, when we did our 2025 predictions video a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how Stardom were going to announce something bigger. So where, we speculated that it could be a return to Budokan. We speculated that they might be announcing a Seoul Tokyo Dome show for 2026. But a return to Yokohama Arena, a noticeably bigger venue than the Buntai, I think is a really good signal of intent. And I think it's a continuation of that signal of intent that they had during this pay-per-view as well. Again, what the main event is going to be, I think, is a very exciting thing to think about, especially if, as I think we all think, if Saya Kamatani is still champion. There's a lot of things that you can do there. I know that some people in the chat have said Saya Kamatani and Syuri, which would be great. I think it's Colin. I can't remember if it was Colin or if it was Jeff. It's Jeff said about how Syuri should go through Hate, knocking out different members of Hate until Saya finally gives her the championship match. I love that idea of Syuri being sort of this Hate assassin. I think that's a really good idea. We've also had, I think it was Maida said Saya Kamatani versus Mina Shirakawa. Saya Kamatani versus Mayu Iwatani is another one as well. So there's lots of good matches, lots of singles matches we haven't seen for a very, very, very long time that we could have as the main event of that show. But it's a great signal of intent. No Vegas show announced, Matt, which concerns me slightly.
If you remember, they announced it at the Stardom Gate show. They wanted to wait because they did the big announcement. They didn't want more than one announcement on Dream Queendom last year, so they did the Dream Queendom on Dream Queendom last year. If you remember, then they announced they're doing Buntai, and then they were doing something. I forget what it was, and then they waited a week after on Stardom Gate to announce it. So if there's no announcement, and by the end of January, then I would be a little bit worried. But if you remember, we were told by a certain somebody that literally followed us out to my car as we were leaving the Monster Factory show that we'll be back next year from a certain somebody that was the most over male on today's show. Because boy, howdy, he got our buddy Daichi, he got a whole bunch of really, really big pops. So again, things will change, but my guess is because Stardom wants to run over in the States more. We know that it's a top priority for them, 2024, 2025, and 2026, with all the with them wrestling all over with the Ring of Honor TV, AEW, obviously WrestleMania weekend is the place to be. I would be shocked if there is not a Stardom show that weekend. So again, my guess is they'll probably announce it probably on New Year's Dream. That's because that's when we got it last year. But Robert, just wondering, we got a lot of great fantasy booking matches with Saya Kamatani. Yokohama Clown. Does anybody have Saya Kamatani against the newly turned babyface of the Yokohama Clown? That's what I want.
I mean, I feel like we don't want to sell all the tickets out immediately, and I feel like that would be the show. I did think Fukikin Death was going to get the win today. To be fair, Plug Ped Look at that guy. Damn, you guys are handsome. Plug,
You're
stop
not
it. You
bad
big
looking
flirt.
yourself, good sir. You're not bad looking yourself.
Yeah, so really, really good news in regard to that. Really excited for that. Couple of other bits. Hazuki and Koguma are challenging for the Oz Academy Tag Team Championships. That is tomorrow on the 30th. So I believe there is streaming information for that pay-per-view on the official Oz Academy social medias. So if you want to go and check that out, please go and do that. And then finally, something I didn't realize, Saki Kashima wrestled this entire show with the flu. So well done, Saki. I say the entire show. She was in the ring for about 3 minutes overall, but even so, she turned up and she did it. I am a big, big fan of that. So well done, Saki. We are going to go then on to the show itself. I understand that there is something wrong with the stream on my side. I appear to have some sort of color weird pixelation here. Don't know why that is, but we're just going to roll with it and assume it's going to go. When my camera's gone completely now. So
You're a cat.
I'm a cat. However, that has reset my the pixelation. So winner. Let's get into this show then, because good gravy, what a show. Oh, just in regards to that Oz Academy show I mentioned earlier, Colin says it's on Zyko. Starts at 2:30 UK time, which Matt, I believe, is 11 your time.
Oh yeah, because you're 5 hours ahead. Why do I mess that up? I was gonna say 7. I don't know. I'm excited. But I had a busy day today. It was a great day. But
it was.
Yeah, and I'm probably getting drunk as soon as we get off this. So
fair enough. Yeah, go for it, man. Armani does say it would be really cool to see Hanan, Rina, and Hina all get title matches at the Utsunomiya pay-per-view. I agree. I completely agree. I think that could be. I want them to all to have. So I want Hanan to be defending that goddess title. Maybe that's where Hina is the future champion, and maybe we see Rina go for the high speed. I think we should have them really highlight them and have all three women in singles title matches. Why not? Why not? You're the three sisters of Toshigi. Why not? Have them do it. And it's a decent venue as well, the Light Cube, so they can pull in a decent crowd. Right, in regards to Dream Queendom then, let's get into it. Obviously, 29th of December, Ryogoku Kokokikan,
yes,
Sumo Hall, and a couple of interesting things. We've already touched on it, but just a couple of attendance notes. The official announced attendance for the show is 4,023 people. This makes it the largest house Stardom have pulled to Sumo Hall. Again, setting aside the highly disputed 5,500 apparently pulled into Yuzuki Aikawa's retirement show. It is a 31.3% increase on the last Dream Queendom in the chronology. So back in 2023, they do 3,068. And it's also a 4% increase on their previous best at the venue, which was the 2022 Dream Queendom, which was main evented by Julia and Suri. That drew 3,869 people. The 4,000 or so people announced for this show, it does make it the second highest sole promoted attendance in company history, behind that All-Star Grand Queendom 2023 show in Yokohama Arena that we mentioned it before. Interestingly, in regards to Sumo Hall in 2024, this is the sixth highest attendance of any company that has ran Sumo Hall. Now, bearing in mind that 4 of those shows are New Japan, that's very, very impressive, because the only show to actually beat out Stardom that is not New Japan, which I feel like New Japan is on an island, you sort of discount them almost at this point. The only other show that outdrew this Stardom show is DDT Wrestle Peter Pan, which drew 4,100 and something. So not a great deal of difference, but still a higher attendance. However, this show still beat out Marigold Summer Destiny, as you mentioned, Tokyo Joshi Pro's Grand Princess 2024, Noah's Wrestle Magic 2024, DDT's Ultimate Party as well. So a really, really, really good number. A really good number. We were talking about what a sellout would look like in regards to Stardom, and it turns out that they did manage to crack that 4,000 number, which we really wanted them to do. And obviously, it's the first time that Stardom have managed to do that inside Sumo Hall. So anyway, let's get into the results then. So the results for this show are as follows. Your pre-show matches: tag team match, the Cosmic Angels team of Yuna Mizumori and Aya Sakura defeated Chi-Chi and Motoi Hamabe. Yuna Mizumori pinning Motoi Hamabe with the Mushigeshi in 10 minutes and 11 seconds, which is incredibly fun to say. In terms of a singles match, then we had Sayaka Kurora versus Rani Agami, ending in a 15-minute time limit, drawing an absolutely fantastic match to just be free on YouTube. First match of the show proper, Goddess of Stardom Championships match. Wingori, Hanan, and Saya Ida defeated Hate Supreme, Momo Watanabe, and Tekla, the champions, to become the 35th Goddesses of Stardom champions. Hanan pinning Tekla with the backdrop hold in 18 minutes and 5 seconds. Three-way 12-woman schmoz. The EXV team of Mina Shirakawa, Rian Hanako, and Waka Tsukiyama defeated the Hate team of Azusa Inaba, Fukigen Death, Ruaka, and Rina, and the God's Eye team of a flued up Saki Kashima, Tomoka Inaba, Hina, and Lady C. Mina Shirakawa getting the victory over Fukigen Death with the glamorous driver Mina in 7 minutes and 4 seconds. In your Tokyo Dome preview match, 8-woman tag match, the Neo Genesis team of Azumi, Miwa Masaki, Meisera, and Suzu Suzuki defeated the Stars team of Mai Iwatani, Koguma, Hazuki, and Momokogo. Azumi pinning Momokogo with the Azumi Sushi in 10 minutes and 12 seconds. Singles match. Saori Anou defeated Mika Iwata with the pottering in 15 minutes and 30 seconds. In a knockout or submissions only singles match, again, it's worth noting, I am just going to repeat that, knockout or submission only. Shiori defeated Konami via DQ in 33 seconds. Again, we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. In a no DQ singles match, Natsuko Tora defeated Maika with a swanton bomb in 18 minutes and 31 seconds. That does not do justice for what these two women decided to put each other through. That, ironically, was the match that my girlfriend decided to watch with me, which was quite entertaining.
Rob is now single, folks. Rob is now single.
Absolutely. You have no idea how true that is. Wonder of Stardom Championship match then. Starlight Kid defeating Natsupoi to become the 24th Wonder of Stardom champion, pinning Natsupoi with the Star Suplex in 23 minutes and 15 seconds. And then in your main event, World of Stardom Championship match, Saya Kamitani defeating Tam Nakano to become the 20th World of Stardom champion with the spinning Star Crusher, 21 minutes and 29 seconds. Right, so a couple of things, obviously, before we get into and dive into these matches as a whole. First off, Amisori, still injured, still off these cards, but was a part of the Japanese commentary team, which was great to see her. Xena, also still on the shelf, though at one point I was sure she was going to challenge Starlight Kid. But she'll be out of action still for an undisclosed period of time. She did join Walker Stewart and Tom Fain on English commentary. Just a note on Walker and Tom, I thought they did another really good job on commentary today, as did Xena as well.
Yeah, phenomenal. I talked to Tom right afterwards, and I told him, I said, you did a really good job. And he's like, oh, you really mean that? And I was like, I'm in the middle of in between sets, buddy. I don't have time to blow smoke. I wouldn't tell you that. I said, no, you did a really good job. And he was just telling me about how the atmosphere in there was absolutely unreal. So yeah, they gelled really well together. Walker, I made mention when we talked about Hazuki versus Mercedes. I thought that was his best call he's ever done. And then you can put Starlight Kid versus Natsupoi and Tam versus Saya Kamitani, as those are probably his three best calls, not just in Stardom, in this stuff he's done in New Japan as well, as his best calls. They really, really gelled well, all three of them together. But Walker really made those last two matches feel like big fight atmospheres. And the crowd certainly chipped in as well, brother. They really did.
Oh God, yeah, we need to talk about that crowd. That crowd it's so hot. And again, you really don't until you get it, until you are watching a show with a hot crowd, you don't quite appreciate, or you forget just how much it adds to it. And especially for me, where they were really, really hot, because you're absolutely right. After the Konami and Shiori match, I did worry when Micah and Natsukatora were coming out if they were going to bear the brunt of the crowd's discontent over the finish of that match. I did wonder if that was it, then they were going to sit on their hands for the remainder of the show, and it was going to not necessarily ruin the show, but it was going to taint their reaction. And rather than do that, there was a brief moment where they were perhaps a bit deflated, but by the middle of this, well, by the point that Micah is absolutely pouring with blood, a 10 on the Muta scale of blood, she's the crowd were back into it. And then obviously by the time Starlight Kid pinned Natsupoi, they were at fever pitch. They really, really were. Fantastic stuff from the Sumo Hall crowd. I know there was a couple of people who listened to the show that were there, and I hope, obviously, if they're listening or watching, they had an absolutely outstanding time, because in terms of atmosphere, that opening video package, I mean, I know we're going to go into the pre-show first, but to open the main card, that video package that went through Stardom's year and sort of almost gave us a whistle-stop tour of how we got to each of these matches. I thought that was so well done. It was really good, and it made this show feel so damn important, because, you know, just that simple thing. You had the smoke go up, you had the pyro, and then you had this amazing video package set to this really, really atmospheric music. It's a simple touch, but for me, that set the scene then for the rest of the show. Every single one of these matches matters. This show is the most important show we've put on all year. Get ready, because we're not going to breathe now for 3.5 hours. And again, 3.5 hours this show. I expected it to be so much longer than it was. And I don't know if that's just because Shiori and Konami only lasted 33 seconds or, you know, what it was, but the show seemed to absolutely fly. But I looked up, and I think the show had been going just over an hour, and that was when Shiori Ano and Mikari Iwata finished. I was like, we are flying through these matches. But none of them seemed like cut for time, and none of them dragged. Like Mikari Iwata versus Shiori Ano went over 15 minutes. Tora and Micah went 18 minutes. Starlight Kid and Natsupoi went 23. And then the main event went 21. So it's not like any of them were, you know, sort of bloated or, you know, sort of cut for time. So they managed to time it really, really well. But overall, as a show, I thought that opening video package it set me so much. It made me so excited for this show, even at whatever time in the morning it was.
You were ready to go, buddy. You were pumped, Rob. You were ready to go. He was
notoriously difficult to get pumped in the morning, me. Notoriously difficult. However, boom, I was there. That video package, I was like, yes, I am ready. I was headbutting walls.
Yeah.
I was, oh, come on.
Yeah, he's cutting himself like Ospreay and Micah did within 6 hours of each other.
I'm cutting cans and sticking them to floors and stuff.
Wow, folks, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. I was ready.
He was ready to go. He was ready to go. He's done those Saeed hilarious that she threw on Momo and Tekla, because she was taking no prisoners. While I'm thinking about it, obviously we're going to talk about it. Pardon me. The one you mentioned about how no match was cut for time, I thought maybe the 8-person could have had. Maybe I'm just being selfish. I thought that 8-person could have benefited for a couple more minutes. I thought there was so much more for them to do, but I guess you can't have it all when Mike is bleeding half of her body weight in blood.
No, that is very true. That is very true. Let's kick into the undercard then. So we'll start with the pre-show. And we'll start with Aya Sakura and Yuna Mizumori versus Chi-Chi and Matoya Hamabe. And I love Yuna Mizumori. Yuna Mizumori is one of my favorite acts of the entire year. But for me, this was all about Aya Sakura and Chi-Chi. Obviously, I know that they have their own rivalry going on, and they've done a tremendous job as well of building this, because this rivalry has only been going since the 1st of October, and they've had 5 matches in a very condensed period. And I feel like it's properly heated up. Obviously, they've got that title match on the 3rd of January. I fully expect Chi-Chi to retain. But again, this did exactly what it needed to do. It was 7 minutes or 8 minutes. I can't remember exactly the time. And did everything it needed to. Set Aya up as a real killer. Set Chi-Chi up, because I think Chi-Chi was the MVP of this match. I thought she was absolutely tremendous. I don't know a great deal about Chi-Chi because I don't watch Evolution, and obviously I don't get round to watching much Sendai Girls, because there's things such as sleeping and apparently turning into a cat.
Probably cat again.
The cameras. Yeah, it's just my camera. It'll come back on in a minute. It's fine.
I'll have you notice that's the same color as Ace, my crazy cat, who was trying to get in this door right here, was slamming his body against the door at 4 a.m, but he's not allowed in here because I have a new chair, and I was told, yeah, and they're like, he can't because he'll scratch everything. So he was literally hurling his body into the door, very much like Micah and Tora hurled themselves into danger. With this match, buddy, and I'm almost ashamed to admit this, but I'm going to admit this, that when we reviewed this show last week, that it was like, yeah, because the show is so massive, and we're like, okay, this is going to be built around Aya and Chi-Chi, and absolutely. I completely forgot that Aya and Yuna Mizumori are the new best tag team in Stardom. Like, they came out for their entrance. I'm like, oh, it's Aya and Yuna. Duh. They were like one of the MVPs, and I think both of our breakout teams of the tournament. So I was like, oh yeah, because I was like, how did I not put 1-on-1 together? And I'm like, well, look at these 7 big main event matches that we're getting. And again, we know that majority of this match is built around Aya and Chi-Chi, and rightfully so. Don't get me wrong, Matoy was great, and it's nice to see her getting a match in front of 4,000 people. And then it was really cool because we thought that Aya was going to get the win, but it was nice that they gave the tip of the nod here on the biggest show of the year to Yuna getting the first win on this massive show. So I like that. I like how Stardom is really rewarding the hard work that is Yuna Mizumori. And again, Yuna and Aya, maybe in 2 or 3 months' time against Wingori for those goddess belts. Who's going to say no? Not this guy, and not the guy that turns into the cat every now and again. So,
absolutely, just call me Professor McGonagall. Had a little Harry Potter joke for all my British friends out there. No, I agree with you completely, and I know that obviously we are going to talk at the end of the show about the Stardom Cast Awards because they are coming back. Voting will open on the 31st of December. Remember that. But I know that we've almost sort of given the MVP award to Yuna Mizumori already. We've talked about how amazing she is, how wonderful her development has been. Obviously, she then had a tremendous 5-star Grand Prix with very little to show for it in the way of points. She and Aya Sakura then blew absolutely everyone out of the water with their performance in the Goddess of Stardom Tag League, because no one expected them to be as good as they were. We were high on Yuna, we're high on Aya, but even we were surprised as how well they gelled as a team. And honestly, looking back at the year, and especially, this tail end of the year, I'm looking at it and thinking, do you know what? I know we've said that Yuna is almost a shoo-in for this MVP, but Aya Sakura could really be pushing her for that. And you can also throw Sayaka Kurora in that as well. I think all 3 of them have had really, really good years, and really good in terms of development for them as well.
You mean most improved, right? Not MVP.
Have I been saying MVP this entire time?
I was like, I love me some Yuna, but over Micah and Mayu, that's a stretch. But hey, you're riding that pineapple train,
This
buddy.
is what happens when you periodically turn into a cat on your live stream. Yes, I meant most improved. Yes, of course I meant most improved.
Rob's on the Pineapple Express, but no, you're and absolutely. I think I gave Yuna my most improved wrestler in all of wrestling last year, and I think she's most improved in Stardom. But as far as all the wrestling, I might have to go with Mai Sakurai. But again, that's another story for another day. But for the Stardom Cast Awards, yeah, she'll probably win it 2 years in a row. And again, I think that we saw her have that great high speed match just a couple months ago in a jam packed Cork and Hall against May Sarah. I think Yuna and Aya give them a little bit of a push against Wingori for those belts sometime in the first quarter of next year. I think that'll do massive business in Cork and Hall, and do massive help to Aya and Yuna and the lower level of Cosmic Angels, having them in a big championship match in a jam-packed Korakuen Hall. So I would not be shocked to see that as a title match, somewhere February, March, or April. And it's going to be a great match. It's going to be a great match because all four of those wrestlers are terrific, and both these teams are next level.
Yeah, I am just going to say that obviously, yes, I did mean most improved. There's a couple of different ones for most improved. For Jeff, most improved, Sayurida. Can't complain about that.
Really?
Sayurida's been absolutely fantastic. And again, she's another one who, holding that belt today, it felt right. It really did.
Jeff, you're crushing with these ideas, buddy. You are crushing.
Really
I like your Mount Rushmore. I like your ideas. This Jeff guy knows what's up. I'll tell you that.
And then Misfit Wrestling Podcast, who has got a little bit of who's got sort of the same sort of idea that we had about the Syuri and Konami match. So we'll come back to that. He thinks Rita gets most improved. I mean, it's hard to disagree with that when you consider her Future of Stardom run and how otherworldly that was. And of course, we do need to bring up Hendrix. It's a pleasure to see you, my friend. An hour late on my end, but here we are. You aren't an hour late. You're 55 minutes late. Don't do yourself a disservice, Hendrix. And then finally, the most important thing, of course, Mr. Andy Hedder. Chi-Chi's pink houndstooth gear was pretty sweet. Agreed.
He's ready to go.
She was the winner of the gear award in regards to this match and possibly the show.
I had even though Andy Hedder is not with us on the show, I had a pre-show meeting with him, longer than our pre-show meeting. Hey, how are you? Look good. You ready to go? Let's go. But yes, he will be chiming in with the whole reason why everybody's here. It's not for me. It's not for you. It's for Andy Hedder, who he's going to give best dressed, best awards to. And again, it's Stardom Dream Queendom with a lot of new outfits. So I'm interested to hear who his best dress was for the night of the Oscars, if you will. Brother, just to my end, just to wrap this match up, I had it at 3.5 stars. I thought it was a really, really good match and a really good way to get, this show rocking and rolling.
And again, it was a really good showcase for Matoya as well. She wasn't tasked with a great deal, but I think she looks really, really solid in ring, and there's a great base. Pardon me, there's a great base to work on with Matoya heading into 2025. Colin says the winner of the gear award was SLK, no contest. I'll be honest, Colin, completely agree. I think her gear game was absolutely tremendous. Right, let's move on then. We're going to look next at Ronnie Agami against Sayaka Kurora. Did not have this going to a 15-minute time limit draw. I think we both had Sayaka Kurora for the win because we thought that she was going to play some manner of part in the main event. Obviously, that didn't come to pass, and I think that's for the best. However, this match, we've just been talking about Sayaka Kurora's development. Let's take a moment to talk about Rani Agami, because Rani Agami has been in the Catch the Wave tournament. She's been in the 5-Star Grand Prix tournament. She's been in the Goddess of Stardom Tag League tournament as well. Shouldn't have been in the 5-Star, was only in there as a replacement for Amisori because of injury. In terms of development, Rani Agami is another one who has been wrestling at a really, really high level. And you're looking at, we had a discussion, Matt, on the last podcast we did for the Dream Queendom preview, and we talked about sort of the future of New Blood. Okay, so obviously we've talked about the sort of the downward trajectory of the attendances for New Blood. It's people like Rani Agami that benefit massively from these New Blood shows, because whenever she's given the tap on the shoulder, she absolutely delivers. Whether it's the comedy matches with Koguma and Syuri, who apparently, despite her feud with Hate and with Konami, it is making sure that Rani Agami does not do the bear dance. That apparently is Syuri's biggest thing in Stardom at the moment. But it's whether it's that or whether it's having absolute bangers with the likes of Sayaka Kurora, I feel like Rani Agami has had a fantastic year. And this was a great match to finish off both women's year, because, again, Sayaka Kurora is another one whose development has been unparalleled this year.
Yeah, the first match, again, it was good, solid 3.5 stars, but the crowd was not dead, but they really weren't into it. So you're kind of like, all right. And we know, when they first when you first clicked on the link to watch the pay-per-view, you're like, I know there's 4,000 people here because they said it was sold out. But obviously it's the pre-show. Not everybody's there. They're on concessions, they're getting autographs or what have you. So you're kind of still kind of wondering, once this show starts, how is the crowd going to react? Because again, a great crowd can make a great show next level, which is what this did. Sayaka Kurora comes in and everybody's yelling her name. And she was even kind of like taken aback by it. Like, I got 4,000 people yelling my name and I didn't even do anything. I just got in the ring. I'm only wrestling like a year. And from that point on, they never went down. The sight of Sayaka Kurora. And this match was really good because you get your grappling to start. And obviously, we know Rana Yagami is great in that grappling. I say she's Shuri Light, which again is a huge, huge compliment to compare her to the best shoot style wrestler maybe in all of wrestling in one Shuri. Like, she's great with the striking, great with the ground game. Sayaka Kurora keeps up with Rana here, and even there's a couple points in time when they get to the wrist lock, the hammer lock, where she actually gets the advantage. So a lot of this is on the ground. You're wondering if this is just going to be a ground match. And then Rana, because we know that the fans are going to see a lot of different stuff on this show. And then is Rana just going to grind her down and then submit her, or Sayaka going to get out and hit the spear? But then they start picking up and they start doing big moves. And Sayaka Kurora hits a couple really great missile drop kicks, one from the middle, one from the top rope. And then she goes for the spear the first time. And Rana catches her in the front guillotine and then transitions the guillotine into the armbar. And then there's one where she goes for the spear a second time. She hits it, but can't follow up because of the damage done. And then as we're counting down to the time limit, she goes for the spear and Rana just kicks her. Makes sense. You're running full speed. May as well throw your best weapon. So the fact that there was the match was really built around the spear after the ground wrestling, I thought it was great. I thought Rana again was terrific. Sayaka Kurora was crazy over. They do have something really special with her. And I think her teaming up with Tam in the Goddess of Stardom, getting that shine on one Tam Nakano really helped her, and it's a helper going forward. And again, we thought she was going to play some sort of role in the championship match. I'm glad she didn't. I'm glad that was mostly a clean match, other than the Kagetsu Mayu callback, which we'll get into. But there was no insane interference. So that I really like, because I don't want that. I'm fine with that on American wrestling. That's kind of like what we do over here when it comes to Japanese wrestling. I want to see who the better wrestler is. Again, bending the rules a little, no problem. But again, these two really great stuff. And the fact that it's like, let's throw them out there in front of 4,000 people, 15 minutes, and let's see what they can do. And they both exceeded. I was like, wow, this is, and I think you made mention it when we started this show, maybe the best pre-show match they've ever had. And what a great way to set that up, going into the video and then going into an absolutely instant classic tag match. Brother, I had this at 3 3/4 stars. I thought this was terrific. And this is going to do nothing but get more eyes, which it already did, because I'm sure more people bought this pay-per-view. More people, if they didn't get the pay-per-view, are going to wait for it to come on Stardom World, which I understand. Then you need to go out of your way to watch this, because this was great. You got two wrestlers that combined experience, 2.5 years, really put on a fantastic match. It just goes to show the depth of this roster. Tam, Natsupoi, Starlight Kid, Kamatani, Watanabe, Tekla. And then kind of down the bottom of the card, you got Rana Yagami and Sayaka Kurora putting on a low-key banger on the biggest show of the year, on one of the highest drawing crowds that they've ever had. Again, 3 3/4 stars. I thought this was terrific, and it really makes you really happy for the future of Stardom with these two.
Orchard joins us. Hello, Orchard. Pleasure having you here, man. Hope you're doing well.
He just finished the show. And here he can't get enough of Stardom. He can't get enough of Star. Welcome, brother. I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope you're having a fantastic holiday season, good sir.
Jeff sums up my thoughts about this completely. Table setting is what this match was. You're absolutely right, Jeff. I think this was exactly what it needed to be. It got you hyped for this show. It's exactly what you needed it to be to get people hyped for this show. And you could feel it again. The moment that video package hit, people were already at this level. And I think that the work that Rana Yagami and Sayaka Kurora did, that was a huge help to getting people to that point that they wanted people to be at before we get to the next match and the first title change of our show. Hate Supreme and Wingori Wingori, of course, becoming the 35th Goddesses of Stardom champions, both women's first reign with the belt. Hannah and Sayurida, of course, they have been the New Blood Tag Team champions, of course. But yeah, this, you talk, and Matt, you talk about this quite often, about putting your hottest match first. And I will be honest, when I saw that because this wasn't the opener in the running order on the website, I was under the impression that we were going to go with the Stars versus Neo Genesis tag. But when this came up, and I was like, okay, this could be interesting. And my only drawback really was, is the hate nonsense going to get in its own way? Or is that going to stop it being a good match? Because we have seen that, especially with Tekla, who, as you've said, is a great heel, gets legitimate heat, which is what you want from a heel. And she's cool. But will the cheating get in the way of what is a good match? And actually, no. Because we've seen, we saw when it was Devil Princess versus Hate Supreme in the Tag League, the cheating done right in the right way really actually helps accent the match. And I think that both Tekla and Momo Watanabe did a very, very good job in just tailing back the cheating a little bit and making sure that the moment the referee took a bump, and by the way, that referee might still be down from that drop kick because he was down for so long. But, as we all know, referees are made of tissue paper. But yeah, they waited until that. It wasn't a blatant cheating. And I think that really helped. It wasn't incessant cheating. So that really helped. And it allowed Hannon's babyface, sort of underdog babyface, to come through. And it was performances like Hannon's here that makes you realize what a future star we have in our midst. And I know she's a star already. I completely get that. But I'm talking red belt champion. Okay. That sort of underdog performance, that's what you need to be your top champion. And Hannon has that in spades, and she is 20 years old. And then, of course, we had Sayurida's hot tag, Sayurida, who just went through this match like an absolute bulldozer. And that's what she should do in every single tag match. Just bulldoze her way through people. And I just want to see her and Momo Watanabe go 30 minutes just because I'm selfish like that. I'm greedy. I thought this was significant. I'd sort of talked myself down in regards to this match because of the hate cheating, and because Tekla is the person in hate who tends to rely very much on the blatant cheating, on slowing the match down and things like that. However, I hold my hands up. I was wrong. This was really, really good. Set the pace of this main card tremendously. The right team won. Hate Supreme, by the way, deserve loads of credit for getting Wingori over, as, not they need much help, but you know what I mean, accenting how good a babyface underdog tag team that these two are. Tremendous stuff from me. 3 3/4 stars. One of the better Hate Supreme matches, I think. Overall, thoroughly enjoyable opener.
I think you need to rewatch this, brother. I think your rating is a little bit low, and again, it's there's not many times that me and you are the star. I may as well we're talking about. I may as well 4.5 stars.
Wow. Okay.
4.5 stars in this set, and I'm just going to say this because I know he's listening and commenting. I'm going to pop him. This was a lot of this match, especially in the beginning, was a lot of blue and gold tag wrestling. What I mean by that is me and Andy had her taking the dumb bumps early on, meaning obviously we get the Wingori jump, they go to the outside, they get a brawl, and then of course it's Hate's gimmick. Hate's gonna hate. Owedo Tai is gonna Owedo Tai for us older fans there, and they just go through the chairs, and I'm like, yeah, that's something that we would do. And then Hanan takes the heat, and it's a long heat, but the crowd is building. They're not molten hot, but they're building. Mm-hmm. They get to the point where Hanan goes to do the hot tag, and then Ida gets pulled off the apron. That is, we stole that off Rock and Roll Midnight Express and the Andersons, but that's something that we do all the time that I really don't see that much in these Stardom tag matches. I'm like, oh, that's really good. Saida gets to the point where she just comes in the ring. They doesn't wait for the hot tag because you're watching your friend getting beat up and getting, I can't get in there because they're bending the rules, really not breaking them. She just comes in and the first thing she does is she throws those left-handed lariats, and it just sets the tone for her and Momo, because her and Momo exchanges was like, okay, this is what it's going to be. Kick, forearm, shoulder tackle, really great stuff. And again, now that Wingori is a main event tag team, they're finally there. We've been saying they're for the last 2 years, they're on the cusp. We saw them what they did obviously in the tag league. Now they're a main event tag team. They need, not less if they're wrestling like an FWC or a Crazy Star, but if or Soyori Poi, if they're going to do this style match, which I'm all for, this is right out of 1970s, 1980s NWA tag match. This formula, and it worked perfectly. Hana needs to take the heat because she's a phenomenal seller, and Saida needs to take the hot tag because she's the hammer. She's not. They can change it up, sure, no problem, because Hana is very explosive. But Hanan's selling here was on another level, and she was drawing the people in when Ida finally made that hot tag. And again, she's just a bulldozer, boom, 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 back and forth. We do get some great near falls, great double teaming. Again, the bending of the rules, not the breaking. We see the referee going down. We see the 17 roll up, not once, but twice on Tekla. And again, for somebody who's grown up on that 1980s wrestling, we know once the referee goes down and the good guys, the baby faces have the win, not once but twice, you know it's going to turn around and bite them, and the heels are going to win. And then you do a great tease when Tekla's going for the O'Connor roll into the Backlund Bridge, and Hanan grabs the ropes, and the ref's just coming up, and then Momo Watanabe hits the head kick onto Hanan, and it rolls Tekla back into the O'Connor roll on the Backlund Bridge. Great falsy. Momo once again missed that shot to Tekla, which is obviously what set up the 17 roll up. Again, I think that's going to play somewhere into Momo Watanabe's face turn coming up next year. Again, we will be talking about that next year because it's on the horizon. Very much Starlight Kid in the last year. We know there's a baby face run in there. All they have to do is wait for the hot angle to pull the trigger. I think Momo is in the same vein coming up in the next handful of months. Maybe Momo Watanabe versus Sai Kamatani at Yokohama Arena. There's one that we haven't thought of. That's a good possibility. Then Saida comes in, hits a top rope shoulder tackle on a Momo Watanabe, which I thought was terrific. Again, now we're building because we clearly have a babyface and heel team. It's not, babyface versus babyface or tweener and babyface. We clearly have about 4,000 people cheering for Wingori and 4,000 people booing, with the exception of Momo. When Momo brings the hammer, they pop for her because, again, I think she's on that babyface round. But you understand what I'm saying. And here's one of the many reasons why I gave it such a high rating. Is finally we're getting towards where the crowd is right here. We have Saida setting up Hanan takes Momo Watanabe out with the backdrop, and then she hits the Ida Buster. Is that the Bia Master, Rob? Is that what you call it? Yeah, I know she has a couple different names for it. She hits that onto Tekla. She's not legal. Hanan is. So as soon as she hits it, now you got to keep in mind too, what did they win the Goddess Tag League with? The Bia Master. So we just seen this in a big venue, in a big, setting before. They just won the Goddess Tag Leagues a few weeks ago with that. She hits that onto Tekla, goes over to Momo, which Hanan took out Momo and keeps her away. Momo's out of the picture. Hanan, and again, I talked about this just the other day on the Marigold Standard. When it comes to finishes and your big title matches, you have to have the crowd here, bump, 1, 2, 3, big explosion. Go, and I just watched it right before I watched Poi and Starlight Kid again. I went back and watched this because I love this. Hanan goes to load up Tekla with the Rich Klaus backdrop in the middle of the ring. She doesn't even pick her up. She just gets the shoulder behind her to load her up. The crowd is like, oh, because they're expecting it, right? Because Momo's out. They're expecting it. So now the crowd is here, the highest they've been for this match. She hits the bump, the backdrop. Now because of the bump, here. 1, 2, 3, massive pop. That is epic storytelling that Hate Supreme set up all through the match with this heat. And it builds and builds and builds. You got a good reaction here with the setup, a good reaction with the bump, and then your big explosion for the finish. When you have a championship match, especially in a title change, that's exactly what you want. This was wrestling perfection between these two teams. This may be the best Tekla match I've ever seen. I don't know if I've ever rated, and I'm a big fan of Tekla. I don't know if I've ever rated a match of hers 4.5 stars. Momo does what Momo does, but we know now Wingori is the cornerstone of this tag division. And there's so many different title matches you can set up with Wingori between now and the next year, 2 years. I mean, it's just so much great stuff. And again, this was just absolutely brilliant. And they knew when to take it home and when to hit those last three big pops. And they hit them. And those 4,000 people went nuts after the crowd hit the 3 count. Again, 4.5 stars. Again, brother, I highly advise go back and watch this. Go back and watch this because what I just said, because I always, your teacher, you always give extra credit because you want to get that pop. And they had them. They took them on a roller coaster. They told a story. Everything was perfect. Nothing was mistimed. The referee was fantastic because he knew when to come back in, what not to see, what to see, when to admonish the rules. But Hananat on the cell, Saida as the hammer, and that excellent finish with Saida bailing Hanan out, and then Hanan helping Saida take Momo out because Momo's the big main eventer out of all these four. She's the the really big hammer. And then again, loading her up for the backdrop, boom, big bump, boom, and then the 1, 2, 3, your big explosion. As a pro wrestler, you don't want anything better than that. That's as good as it gets. What a great opener. Again, 4.5 stars. Just another phenomenal tag match in Stardom's 2024. Added to the list of the other 8,000 ones we talked about.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about in this match, and the chat seems to be talking mainly about the face turn of Momo Watanabe when it's happening. Orchard makes a very good point of Momo fans are very patient and very impressed with their willpower. And then Jeff says you can say that with Hazuki fans as well. Yes, Hazuki fans and Momo fans are both very
2025 will be our year, folks. 2020, because I think that's the co-main event. Starlight Kid and Hazuki for the white belt in Yokohama.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I said this on our prediction show. I think Hazuki takes the white belt from Starlight Kid at Yokohama Arena. I genuinely think that's what happens. In terms of spots for me, the biggest spot for me actually wasn't anything to do with Momo Watanabe. It was Tekla going for the spear and Sayurida pushing Hanan out of the way and taking the spear because she knew she wasn't legal. So then straight away, Hanan can hit the 17. I loved it. I thought that if you ever needed a visual representation of how diametrically opposed these two teams are in terms of philosophy, you have got Hanan and Sayurida, who are friends and tag partners, and you have got Hate Supreme, who are tag partners. And I think often being friends, that gets used against you quite a lot in tag matches, especially if you're baby faces. However, here it worked perfectly because Sayurida sacrificed herself, not being legal, to take this spear from Tekla to then allow Hanan time to recover. And I thought that was really good storytelling that I thoroughly enjoyed. And I think that was a really underrated moment when you consider it, Saya obviously setting up Hanan for the victory with the Beer Master and things. But yeah, overall, very good match, correct result. And you're absolutely right, Matt. We have got an absolute slew of matches that we could have now in terms of the tag division. Wingori versus O2 line, Wingori versus FWC, the rematch, Wingori versus Peach Rock, Wingori versus even BMI 2000. I think that would be a genuinely very good match. Wingori versus Starbomb, Wingori versus Crazy Tiger Girl, Crazy Star, Meltier now. Yeah, absolutely. Jeff says Sayurida is the friend we all need. We all need a friend who's willing to take a Tekla spear for us.
I got you in Vegas, buddy. You don't worry about it. You start a riot, I got you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Only if someone goes to spear me, though. That's the only way that Matt will protect me. But yeah, overall, I thought this was the right choice, a really good decision, and I think that Wingori now go on a long tear with these belts now, really solidify themselves as the premier team in Stardom. Because again, even that rematch with FWC, which I think we are absolutely 100% going to get, because FWC beat Wingori for the belts at the conversion when Wingori challenged them. So I think that a rematch of that to prove themselves as, the premier team, at least in Stars, if not in Stardom, I think that's something that we could do. And again, maybe in Vegas.
Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby. So we're going to talk about the 12-woman three-way tag thing now, which again was sort of the palate cleanser we knew it would be. It was a lot of fun. I thought the very short Azusa Inaba Tomoka Inaba I don't know why I call her Azusa Inaba and Tomoka Inaba. They're sisters. They have the same last name, but I say them differently, and I
We do
don't
it
know
all the
why.
time. Koguma, Kaguma, we do it all the time.
The two sisters. Let's call them that. I thought their exchange was tremendous. Mina Shirakawa, not just in terms of the match, but commentary as well, put her over as a massive, massive star. Walker Stewart obviously putting over how well he could do the dance. I am waiting for proof, Walker. That's all I'm saying. And I think obviously that is very deliberate ahead of her match with Mercedes Moné at Wrestle Dynasty. But I am going to say the most wholesome thing, and Jeff has just said it in the chat, the most wholesome thing in this entire match was seeing Waka Tsukiyama finally with a title belt. That might be the greatest thing I have seen. If we can belt up Lady C in 2025 now, I'll be a happy little Rob.
I think Lady C and Hina are the next heir apparent for those new blood belts.
It would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, give Waka and Hanako their run. You mentioned the sister violence. There was two different types of sister violence. You had the Inaba sisters, and you had Hina and Rina as well. So that was some really fun stuff. Folks, you have 12 people here, 7 minutes. You're not getting Steamboat Flair 89. You know, it's just we knew this was going to be one that it's like, to get everybody in. It's going to be fun. Good to see Mina again. Mina might be the biggest worldwide star on this show because of all the exposure she's got on AEW TV. So again, it's really weird the fact they drew 4,000 people and Mina wasn't in like a prominent match. But I think, again, we'll get into it. We talk about the main event. We're setting up Saya challengers because there was a little Twitter beef about an hour before we went live, or about 2 hours before we went live, with Saya and Mina. So maybe we're going that way. Again, there's a lot of different ways they can go with the Wonder and World, and I'm so excited for it. Yeah, it was fun stuff. Everybody got in. They did what they needed to do. They put the right person over. Mina getting the win. Was it right to pin the clown?
It's never right to pin the clown.
Yeah, you're right. But there's a T-shirt on our website saying, "To be the man, you have to beat the clown." So maybe it is Mina. Maybe Mina will be the next. If Mina wins the red belt or any belt in 2025, we'll say
it's because moment right here.
It's the momentum. This is what she needed for her confidence. Because she lost two AEW Women's Championship matches over these last few months, once to Toni Storm in Forbidden Door, once to Mariah May a few weeks ago. So she's on a little bit of a slump. My guess, she's losing to Mercedes Moné at the Dome. However, if she wins any belts or really wins any matches, we're going to say it's because of the confidence she got in beating the clown. Again, fun stuff. The best part of this match is we got a little bit of Azusa versus Tomoka. And we know that eventually we're going to get either a big tag match or a big singles match somewhere down the line, and it's going to be right up our alley. 3.5 stars for me, my friend. Again, it was fun, but not one that I'm going to be writing books about.
Andy Header actually mentions in the comments, it was something that I actually meant to mention earlier, Lady C and Hanako, the big woman spot. I thought that was really good as well. And it's Lady C is doing really good work. And I said this before with Yuna Mizumori in the 5-star Grand Prix this year, doing a lot of good work for not a lot of reward in terms of points. And I think Lady C is another person who is very understated in the work that she does, is a solid hand without getting much in the way of results and things like that. I do anticipate her getting something. She's running out of time for the future belt, actually, thinking about it, because she debuted in late 2020 or early 2021. So she's running out of time to challenge for the future of Stardom belts. Obviously, the New Blood tag team titles. I don't think there is a particular sort of set of stipulations that you have to meet to challenge for that. So that might be the way we go for Lady C. But yeah, I think her work especially is tremendous. Obviously, loads of time for Hanako. She's only 24, and I think she's only been wrestling for a year and a bit, so loads of time for Hanako. But yeah, it did exactly what it needed to do. And of course, Mina Shirakawa now has a pinfall victory over Fukigen Death. Does Mercedes Moné have that? I don't think so.
No, I don't think she does, buddy. And you're right. So if you're a betting man going into the Tokyo Dome, yeah, maybe Mina. Mercedes hasn't lost a match in quite some time. However, she's never pinned a space clown before. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all I'm saying. It's all I'm saying. Stars versus Neo Genesis then. And Matt, we love Stars. We love Stars. Mayu Iwatani, icon of Stardom, incredible wrestler. Hazuki, the purveyor of Hazuki mode, the people's champ, incredible. The Bear, incredible. Momo Kogo, one of the most improved wrestlers of 2024. Really, really well supported. The moment Neo Genesis came out, there was a different vibe entirely. They felt like such superstars. And you know what? You had Azumi in this match, you had Mei Seira in this match, you had Suzu Suzuki in this match. But I don't know if it was just me, but the vibes I got, the biggest star on their side was Miyu Amasaki.
You know
And I
why?
don't know whether it was an aura thing and the fact that she went back to her old gear. I don't know whether it was the darker hair. I don't know if it was because she actually performed the Kuma dance without Koguma attacking her. Don't know what it was, but genuinely for me, she felt, I don't know, like she had the biggest aura. Or whether it's just because we now know that she can play Shinsuke Nakamura's theme on a violin.
It could be all that, but my thing would be the fact that FWC, who their double teams dominated everybody except for Miyu Amasaki. Hazuki and Koguma, whenever they put whoever put this match together, which I'm assuming it was a little bit of everybody, but I'm assuming Miyu because she's the younger statesperson in this match. FWC, no disrespect to the other three teams, they're the best tag team in this match. Again, in my opinion, they're the best tag team. Yeah. They're the best tag team in the world. And they would just hit double teams to take over on Suzu, to take over on May. Like May would come in and try to run her high speed spots, bless you, and FWC would stop her. But Miyu Amasaki comes in and forts off Hazuki and Koguma, and a lot of times at the same time. So it's like FWC made sure they made Miyu Amasaki look legit. FWC, the only team in Stardom's history to win the Goddess belts 3 times in front of 4,000 people. This match is really built around Mayu and Azumi, and rightfully so. We get that. But they're bumping all over for Miyu. Miyu's countering all their moves. She hits that big pop-up DDT onto the two of them.
Double DDT. It's great, yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why, Miyu, in your mind, other than the fact that she can play Nakamura's theme on the violin, which is really impressive. But
it is.
The fact that you were the best tag team, in my opinion, in the entire planet, bumping all over the place for one wrestler. It wasn't like it was O2 Line doing teamwork. It was Miyu breaking down FWC in this. Again, 10 minutes. This was a great match. I was so excited because I kept saying, since we're going to the Dome with Azumi and Mayu, we're not going to get a big singles match between the two a week earlier at Dream Queendom. This is what they need to do. And we got it. I'm like, oh my goodness, this might be the greatest 8-person tag match ever. The fact it only got 10 minutes, I was like, oh, I still gave it 4 stars. It was a phenomenal match. You start with Azumi and Mayu. And as soon as they put their hands up, and the other 3 members of the respective factions go away, the crowd is like, oh, because here we go. We're going to get a little bit of a preview. And we got that preview. Eventually, though, we do see the Stars teamwork onto Miyu Amasaki. We do get the bear dance as well because 4,000 people doing the bear dance. Who doesn't want that? Really great stuff. We do get a little bit of FWC versus Crazy Star. My opinion, probably the best Stardom tag match this year, and one of the best Stardom tag matches in the company's history, which is saying something considering how great the tag division has been the last few years. So you did get that. And then you get that closing stretch with Momo, Kogo, and Azumi. And the crowd bit on the Momo, Kogo falsies to the point where they almost wanted to see it. So again, we talked about Miyu Amasaki being, Azumi's a bigger star. Mei Seira's a bigger star. Suzu's a bigger star. Miyu Amasaki felt big. Obviously, FWC, huge stars. Mayu, maybe with the exception of Tam, the biggest star in this company. And in our opinion, is probably number 1 on the Stardom Mount Rushmore. But they did a great job getting Momo Kogo over. And by they, I mean Azumi, making sure those near falls she kicked out at the last second because people were biting on them. But ultimately, it was the Azumi Sushi that puts away Momo Kogo, which we did predict Azumi would get the win over Momo Kogo. So we're glad we got that one right because when it came to these last 3 matches, we completely bombed right out. But yeah, really, really great match. Hopefully, I would love to see them run it back in a Korakuen or or KBS Hall and give it 17, 18 minutes because we've seen how insane those main event or co-main event matches are on what we call the Stardom World shows. But ultimately, you have so many bigger matches coming up after this. So I understand why I win 10 minutes, but at the same time, Konami and Shuri really wasn't a match. You could have given this one 2 or 3 minutes. Regardless, 4 stars, still a great rating. My expectations were just so high. They were so high because I just wanted to see Hazuki and Mayu doing the double dives and Koguma doing the splash and Miyu doing, 49 different versions of or not Miyu, Momo Kogo doing 40 versions of the 619 and Suzu Suzuki just blasting somebody in the face. But we got a little bit of that. But again, my expectations were crazy high for this. Regardless, this was a great match. It really catapulted us into the rest of these main event style matches. Again, 4 stars for me, my friend. Really good stuff. And the fact that they highlighted Miyu Amasaki and Momo Kogo in this match, I mean, again, they're doing a great job taking the mid card or the lower mid card and pulling them up so they can hang with the main eventers.
Yeah, and what it is worth noting is as well that we do have another preview tag on the 3rd of January show. So we do get another preview as well. I am in agreement with you. I would have liked to have seen it go maybe a touch longer. However, in these sort of quick-paced sort of multi-woman tags, especially as one lower on the card, you don't necessarily expect it to go as long. But nevertheless, still a very, very good match. Everyone managed to get their licks, and I gave it 4 stars as well. Pardon me. Andy Hedder says Miyu's gear here was top notch. Completely agree. I believe it was a roll gear, wasn't it, from before Neo Genesis? I believe it was a Queen's Quest gear.
That's why it was top notch.
That's why it was top notch. He also says Azumi's pink to purple hair was the best. I do agree. Starlight Kid had the same hair as well, so a nice bit of unity there across Neo Genesis. And Misfit Wrestling is a very Kevin thing to do.
We forgot about that. We haven't done the Kevin thing in a while.
Oh, Kevin. Moving on then to the first of our big matches on this card. And we talked about aura with Miyu Amasaki and how she had the biggest aura of anyone in that match, the Stars and Neo Genesis match. That paled into insignificance when Soriano comes out like a goddamn Star Wars villain. She marches out, that side profile, the music, the backlit, and then just that look that, oh my God, smoldering. It was absolutely incredible. There's aura, and then there's Soriano. Absolutely incredible. And Misfit says Xena called it aura. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no one that has that type of aura like Soriano does. I thought that in itself was incredible. And you've got a pairing here who have wrestled each other 4 times in singles matches over the past year. And you could be forgiven potentially for assuming that, you'd run back old spots. You could retread old ground. And actually what they did was just beat the living hell out of each other, which I feel like is exactly what needs to happen. Soriano played a wonderful underdog performance in the first part of this match, and Mikari Wata absolutely bludgeoned her. So this match, I think, went 15 minutes. I reckon for the first 8 minutes of this, Mikari Wata just absolutely bludgeoned Soriano. Just made Soriano regret every life choice she's ever made. There was a beautiful moment where she does some sort of inverted kick off the top rope. Just beautiful stuff. And then you had the quick-paced finish, which Soriano does better than damn near anyone at this point. Her ability to ramp up the intensity of a closing stretch is why, we've said multiple times on different podcasts that we want to see her have a red belt shot. Doesn't have to win it, but we know that as soon as she gets to that sort of final stretch, we saw it in a white belt run, that match with Hannon at All-Star Grand Queendom. Amazing. She switched gears into that final stretch, and that final stretch was incredible, and it's exactly the same here. And she has such a good dance partner with Mikari Wata. We've seen from their previous 4 matches that they have great chemistry. And at no point did I feel like, oh, I've already seen this. I've seen this 4 times already. Actually, I'm sitting there going, I kind of want to see this again. I want to see this again. I don't care if they've done it 5 times. I know they've said it is the final time they're going to do it. Both women have come out and say it's the last thing, and the last time they're going to square off. But I don't care. I want to see him do it again. And Andy Hedder has hit the nail on the head, because that headbutt spot was savage. Absolutely. So it came out of nowhere as well. And you talk about ramping up intensity. Like, it started with just like one, and then it just seemed to build and build and build and build and build. And then that smooth transition from Soriano doing the headbutts to Mikari Wata then doing the headbutts, and just that smooth transition in the dynamics of the match. beautiful. These two are so damn good together. Fantastic, fantastic match. 4.25 stars. Thought this was absolutely brilliant. Is it the best of the four? Ooh, best of the five, sorry. I think it probably is. I think it probably is. Their match at the conversion was also absolutely fantastic, but I think this might have just been a touch better. And yeah, you could sense not that they don't like each other, but it's very much based on rivalry. There's no hatred there, rivalry. There's aggression, a determination to prove themselves. Loved it. Thought this was absolutely brilliant. A proper pay-per-view caliber singles match. And again, it proves, as does the Micah and Natsuko Tora match, that a title doesn't necessarily have to be on the line to make it a must-see match. And yeah, this was the perfect epitomization of that.
Yeah, we talked about aura. Miko Wada has aura as well. Really
cold stare. Oh.
And again, I know Andy's sending you comments. Brother, does Miko Wada's theme remind you of some Castlevania games? Because that's what I got. I got a feeling like back in my youth playing some Castlevania games, and I'm going up to like the boss stage, and it's like, I'm not fighting Dracula. It's worse. I'm fighting Miko Wada. Not just give me Dracula. Give me Frankenstein. Because that's the vibes I get from me, especially on these Stardom shows. You see Sendai Girls. And by the way, I did watch it was Takumi Iroha and Meiko Satomura versus Red Energy from the 30th. So when you get a chance, partner, watch that one. That was a great match. But like up in Stardom, because especially Miko Wada, when she's wrestling in Stardom, she's in the bigger venues. Like the Conversion was a bigger venue. The Sendai Girls are like they're running Korakuen or the smaller venues, and they're packing them. They're doing great. But like you get the whole presentation with Miko Wada. It's like a different level of like Miko Wada. Soriano, you talked about that aura. Our good buddy Chad, who you obviously you know Chad from our WrestleMania shenanigans.
Big up, Chad.
Yes, he only watches WWE product, a little AEW, but just WWE. And when Julia came in, and he's like, "Is this like the stuff that you guys cover? Like just the aura? Because what other wrestlers in Stardom have that aura?" So I was kind of just sending him clips, and I sent him a clip of Soriano's entrance from Yokohama Buntai against Hanan from All-Star Grand Queendom. And he's like, holy goes, I didn't even see her wrestle. And she's like my new favorite. So it's like the fact that, again, someone who really doesn't watch Japanese wrestling just on the entrance alone, and then she gets in the ring and everything she does. And again, especially these last few months, we talk up Soriano quite a bit. And now that Tam's not the champion, Soriano versus Saya Kamitani for the V1, maybe at Nagoya. That's a great way for Saya to kick off her championship run.
It really is.
But like, again, we put over Soriano, and rightfully so. The one thing we failed to mention, and as soon as I mention, it's going to click in your head. She does everything perfectly. The missile drop kicks perfectly. I always say her fisherman suplex, I call it the perfect plex. One of the best bridges you'll ever see. The kicks, the strikes, the selling, everything she does seems so flawless. Like she almost seems like she was put on this earth to be a professional wrestler, to be a Joshi style pro wrestler, because she does everything from the entrance, the way she sells, whether she's heel, babyface, tag, 6-person, singles. Like she is so flawless as a wrestler. And I don't know any other wrestlers that are like that. Like she's just almost on an island to herself. She really, really is. I love how this match started. Is Wada just comes in and just hits a couple strikes, and she's reeling. She's reeling, and very much like
smashes the aura out of Soriano.
Yeah, she's not here to play. She's not here to play. And very much you mentioned about how like on that back foot, like she's on like right. And again, you see some MMA fights where somebody gets rocked early on, like, oh, this could end up, and all of a sudden they take time to regroup. Pro football or college football, we call football over here in the United States, is you see a team at halftime that's just getting smashed. They go to halftime, they take a breath, they regroup, they have another game plan, and they come out in the second half, and they either win or make it close. That's exactly what happened here. Once Soriano was able to breathe, then she's able to imply her game plan to Miko Wada. It really was the tale of two different matches melded into one because it's something different. It's the 5th time that they wrestled, and it's the biggest crowd they wrestled in front of. My one little nitpick, and I did not know this, and again, huge credit to Xena, Tom, and Walker for commentary. I didn't know this until they made mention on commentary. This is the final match. Pro wrestling, folks. Nothing's ever set in stone. This is the final match they're having with each other. with the Potter ring, that leaves the door open. If this is your final match on this big stage, it should have ended with the Ocean City Cyclone Suplex or a couple different variations of the, you ready? Tom's Tundra. That's how.
Sorry. No, whoa. No, sorry. What you mean is the Tom's Tundra.
I like it when she went for the Tom's Tundra, and then Miko Wada kicked her in the head. But it was a cool finish, and the fact they wrestle each other so much, you can be forgiven that it's not a big move to end this match with. If you remember when Soriano won the Wonder belt back, she had to go the Natsupoi playbook. She had to use the Pharaoh ring to open up the door for the Ocean City Cyclones, the Ocean City suplex to get the win, or was the Japanese? I forget the name of the name of the Japanese
Ocean suplex.
That's it. Yeah, the Japanese Ocean suplex. So it's like, okay, because they wrestle each other so much, Soriano has to take a quick cover out. And she did it with she had the pottering for a 2 count, and then she did the one where she rolls through onto the backslide. So I like that for a finish, but if it wasn't the final match, it should have been the big bump, the 1, 2, 3. Regardless, 4.5 stars for me. I thought it was terrific. I did watch their conversion match back twice over a holiday break, just because I was so excited for this match. The conversion match had the better ending because it was more emphatic, but this was a better story. This was a better story because, again, Soriano is like a perfect wrestler. The one thing that we've never noticed before is how resilient she is. And maybe it's because she's never been getting her ass kicked by, again, Dracula's real final boss, Castlevania's real final boss, Miko Wada. So, again, I like the finish of the conversion match a little bit better, but I like this match as a whole, the psychology and the storytelling. And again, 4.5 stars for me. I knew it was going to be great. It was terrific. And I'm with you. I know some people are like, all right, it's over, let it go. And I'm like, no. You can't have too much of a good thing. And Miko Wada versus Soriano, I could watch them wrestle once a month for 2 years. Just fantastic. I hope Miko Wada, she does these coming back to Stardom from time to time, because I think she fits in great, especially on these big shows. And again, Soriano, man, I really think in the way to kick off Kamatani's run is against Soriano. I think that should be her V1 because it's an easy story to tell with the Cosmic Angels thing there. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But again, 4.5 stars, phenomenal. My favorite match between these two.
It is worth noting as well that with this victory, they go to 2-2-1 in their singles rivalry. Are you telling me that we are going to have them put a cap on this rivalry without a definitive winner in the series?
It's a business. It's a business. 4,000 people tuned in for this. It's a business. Money talks, brother.
Absolutely. The moment that because obviously going into this, that Mika Iwata got 2 wins, Soriano had got 1, and then obviously 1 had gone to a time limit draw. As soon as Soriano won, I was like, right, so they're both tied at 2 wins each. There's going to be a rubber match. Like, maybe not next year, maybe the year after, but I don't think for a moment, especially as you mentioned, having the win with a flash pin as opposed to an emphatic, sort of impact finisher.
Say it like what?
Oh, sorry. Like the Japanese Ocean suplex. Oh no, is that not what you meant? Oh, I'm sorry.
The Pharaoh gift.
Yeah, or the what's the Tom's Tundra.
That was a beautiful setup.
Thank you very much. People listening, people are just going to be like flicking through YouTube or Twitter and going, "What the hell are they doing?"
We don't know.
Somehow we're
successful.
The Tom's Tundra. Yeah. So I do think that we will get another one. They will probably give it a bit of time, but yeah, I'd be very, very surprised if we don't run this back to get that definitive winner. Excellent match between these two. It's the first one. And the Goddess of Stardom Championship match as well. I will go back and watch it again, but this is the first one that I was like, bloody hell. Okay, we are in a show. We are in a show, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of that, we have this match next. And look, let's get this out of the way. 33 seconds. I am under the impression that Konami is hurt. And I know that me and you were texting each other, Matt, while the show was happening. And once it became very obvious that it wasn't an angle, there wasn't a case of it being restarted. There wasn't a case of Konami coming out and sort of doing something with the main event and then that being the way in. Once it was very obvious that it was just a case of, right, that's it, that's your lot. I think it was very obvious that the only reason that they would do this on their biggest show of the year is if Konami was injured. And actually, Misfit Wrestling Podcast actually put up earlier on, which is what I was doing. I was looking for the comment. I know people are upset about the Konami Shiori match, but I think Konami got concussed and legit knocked out. And then he said, I heard doctors and Okada went to check on Konami, which is why they did the hate spot. So, look, that Shiori kick straight out of the gate was flush. It was a very, very hard kick. Again, 4,000 people. This is one of the blood feuds going into this show. This is not a smoz. You don't do a 30-second DQ because ultimately as well, and it is worth noting, this is a submission or knockout match. Submission or knockout only. So there shouldn't even be a DQ. DQ shouldn't matter. But that being said, if Konami is legit hurt, credit where credit's due for thinking on feet, because that is fantastic stuff. She was hurt beforehand. I don't know whether she was hurt in the match. I don't know. She might not have been hurt. This might just have been an awful booking decision. However, logic would dictate that something has happened here and an audible has had to have been called.
Me and you were texting, and my whole big thing is halfway through Micah versus Tora, and we were both under the impression that Micah was going to win. I was like, maybe Micah gets the win, and they beat Micah down, and then Konami comes back for the beatdown, Sherry comes down for the save, and then they restart it. Like, what a big pop that would be. Obviously, that didn't happen because Micah ate the L, which we'll get into, and what was a phenomenal match. But I was texting with Andy, and again, we're inside, and I'm not arguing. Was it Misfits podcast that had that Konami got injured? Okay, and I'm not. And again, I could be wrong. We don't know. Hopefully, we'll find out soon. But I was texting back and forth with me and Andy, just knowing what we know from being in independent wrestling as long as we have and seeing what we've seen. That is, if Konami got injured, they had to call that audible right away. Who called the audible? You know what I mean?
And it was done very quickly.
Very
it was
quick.
Like very smoothly as well. There's got to be it's a 10-second count. And before the referee moves Shiori away, they're already at 6. The referee has then got to communicate with the members of Hate to actually get in and ruin the match. So again, please continue.
And again, I use the referee for a lot of my calls. That's why the ref is there. I'm very good at communicating to the ref if something goes wrong or I want to change something up. And I didn't see that. And again, I didn't rewatch this match. However, this match was the entire match, this 22 seconds, was re-put back on Twitter quite a bit. And from what I saw, and again, I could be wrong, and Misfits might be right, that Sherry, when she landed those kicks, she all landed them on the same side. It looked like Konami's shoulder was higher up than the other one. We know Konami trains in jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and whatnot, so she could have gotten injured just in practice. So that's the way it looked to me. It looked like her shoulder was already a little messed up before the match and really couldn't do anything. Again, I could be wrong. I don't know. If it's an angle, I totally disagree with it because it's like if you're doing an angle,
wholeheartedly.
If you're doing an angle, you want to do it on your biggest show. This was your biggest show, and they've really been ramping this. This angle started in the middle of the summer. They kind of had that schmozz match, and then it's like we kind of forgot about it because we had the 2 tournaments, and then as the Goddess tournament was wrapping up, we ramped this back up. We had the great press conference. They put a lot into this match, even to the fact where it was the non-factions teaming with each other to go up against Hate in this last week, which was genius booking that we covered last week on the Stardom cast, only to have this. So again, I think Konami was injured going in, and it's just a case of we can't call a last second audible because we built it. Let's just do this. And another suggestion would have been, me and Andy would kind of text him back and forth. What if when Sherry hit those 2 brutal kicks, they just just counted to 10? I think the crowd would have booed it. So it's a good opportunity to get more heat on Hate and then introduce the new member of God's Eye, which I'm so excited about. Again, the big podcast, the big positive that did come out of this, which we'll get into in a second. But I will say this again, I love this style, partner. You know, I love you are everybody listening. You know, I love this shoot style. And this was a match that was going to stand out. This match, the bell, and again, Shuri's boiling. Shuri's been getting the better. Konami's been getting the better of Shuri for the last 6 months. So you know something's going to explode. The bell rings. She hits that knee and she hits 2 kicks. And I don't like to curse, but I'm going to curse. I literally sat up in this same chair I was in. I was like, ah, shit, here we go. Right. And then I was like, oh, come on. Because it was like, again, she's had all this pent up frustration, finally gets to let it out in front of 4,000 people. The big pump knee, 2 brutal kicks. You know, Shuri tries to go into go for the forearms to the head, and I think it was Daichi was like, no. I'm like, oh man, we're here. And then we get the schmage, and I was like, oh, maybe that's just the way to get everybody out, and then we'll restart the match, and then the bell rings, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And then we see the clearing of the house of one person. I thought was Tomoka Inaba for a second.
I did as well. I thought it was Inaba.
But it was not. And then me and you were texting back and forth, and I was like, I think that's the girl that fought Konami on Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, which did take place. I just realized this until I said it. That show
in Sumo Hall.
In Sumo Hall. So continue, my friend, because I will give a little background to her trainer, because I've only seen her on that Bloodsport show. And if you remember when I covered that match on the Stardom cast back in the summer, I said she would fit in perfectly with this Stardom roster.
Yeah, so obviously we'll come back to the actual angle in a minute, because there's a couple of things that make me think this is definitely not an angle, it's a legit injury. But in terms of the surprise package of this match, and the actual good surprise, not the fact that the match only went 33 seconds, which cannot be described as a good surprise. But as Hate have obviously come in, there's a huge brawl between God's Eye and Hate. Hate seems to have the upper hand, as they often do against God's Eye. There is a mystery person that comes in, clears the ring with a few kicks. Turns out to be Maya Fukuda of Gleet and Act Res Girls as well. She's now going by, and I've got it written down, Kyoko Kotatsu, who basically, again, has been a member of Leon, and Matt knows a lot more about her than I do. So I've got hiccups, which isn't helping. She then took to the microphone, basically said that she was in awe of Syuri and wanted to join God's Eye. I'm assuming that from the handshake of Syuri that has been accepted. I don't know. I'm assuming. It would also explain why Syuri's match has not been announced for the New Year Dream show, because she might be tagging with Maya Fukuda. That was a big positive to take from this match. Absolutely. Because Matt, I know you were very, very excited for it. Now, it is with noting, just before we delve into that, she is still she is still green. She's only had 25 matches in her career, and her last match was that match against Konami back in June. So we will see what she's like in ring, how long it takes to sort of shake the ring rust, if indeed there is any. But yeah, I think it's a big get for Stardom. It also adds some much needed firepower to God's Eye, because we've said it multiple times, Matt. How often have God's Eye in this feud with Hate been made to look like absolute chumps? They haven't seemed to get any sort of purchase on this feud. So continue before I give my thoughts on why I don't think this is an angle.
And God's Eye, they're known as, when they first formed, they're known as killers. You have Shuri, killer. Mirai, killer. Obviously, Mirai has gone off to Marigold and doing phenomenal stuff over there. Ami Sohrei, killer. Ami Sohrei's injured. They had Tomoka Inaba, satellite member, killer. No disrespect to Lady C. and Saki Kashima. Love them. They're not exactly the killer mold. Not just yet. We've seen Saki Kashima bringing up the strikes. Lady C's just like, I'm sick of this mid-card stuff. And Hina's really coming along. And again, I'm really excited to see what Hina and Lady C do as a tag team. So the fact that you have somebody, again, I've only seen five. Again, I love Bloodsport. I love the shoot style wrestling. I love what Josh Barnett is bringing back, the UWF ring style of shoot style wrestling. So anytime there is a Bloodsport show, I am 100% watching. So again, it's in Japan. It's in Budokan. Konami's on it. You know, they did a great job talking about Shuri. They would love to see Shuri on Bloodsport. Yes, please. I'd love to, if we get that in Vegas. Oh boy, I'd be a happy camper. And that's right around your birthday, buddy. So so there you go. So they did mention that Fukuda is trained by, and he was there, and he never really comes out to second his fighters, Kiyoshi Tamura. Kiyoshi Tamura is a shoot wrestling legend. shoot fight wrestling legend to the point where he might have been 10 years too early. If his prime was in like a couple years ago, the guy multi-millionaire. But the fact that she's trained by Tamura, again, if you just type in Tamura on YouTube, there's so many. He fought in Pride, he fought in UWF, he's fought, the matches he's had with Volkan and rings is shoot fighting, shoot style wrestling, work shoot style at its absolute finest. But the guy is a legit badass, literally to the point that Tamura's trainer, the late great Billy Robinson, the catch king himself. And I'm almost positive. Now, you talk about students of Billy Robinson, the one that gets the most love and lore, and rightfully so, is Sakuraba. Because when MMA first started blowing up in the 90s, it was all about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And all the old timers would be like, catch wrestling can beat Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Sakuraba beat all the Gracies with catch wrestling. Billy Robinson, in his book, Physical Chess, said Tamura was his best student ever. So the fact you're getting somebody that was trained by the guy that was trained by Billy freaking Robinson, our lady, that's fantastic. And again, we need killers in God's eye. She fits the mold perfectly. Again, we'll probably find out what happened with the angle, and it is what it is. And I was like,
yeah,
I
imagine so.
And I was so down. I was like, this was such a perfect show. And this match started out with, oh man, here we go. And I'm like, and then it was the fact that we're getting Tamura's student again. The fact that he trains people all the time and never comes out to second for the fight because he does not want to be in the public eye, but came out for this. Might have been out of respect for Josh Barnett, who also sat underneath the learning tree of Billy Robinson. That would be my guess. But the fact that Tomoka Inaba might not be the second biggest killer in God's eye is really intriguing. Because you know me, I love me some Tomoka Inaba, but partner, wait till you see this. And again, the fact that she hasn't wrestled, she's only wrestled a handful of matches. Where's the best place to go to learn wrestling? Stardom. Look what they've done with the rookies, and she already has that MMA background. She's going to be in the Shuri camp. Oh, and I forgot to mention Rani Yagami. Rani Yagami is obviously God's Eye. She's a killer as well. This is what God's Eye needs. They need firepower. They need killers. And they brought in an absolute killer. So I don't know what's going on with this whole Konami thing. Obviously, I was so heartbroken because this is, and we'll talk about it at the end, this is one of the best Stardom shows I've ever seen from top to bottom. This was kind of, and I get it. It wasn't like it was like a 20-minute match that was just terrible. Just like Konami might have been injured or got injured, got in, got out. We did the angle. We got our new member, former student, our current student of Tamura. So that's really intriguing for me. That's the big positive. But yeah, we'll see what happens. See what's going on with Konami. And obviously, if she is legit injured, we wish her the best.
Yeah, completely. I imagine that if there is a legit injury, we will get some sort of news on Stardom's social media. If not tomorrow, probably the day after. In terms of it not being an angle, it is worth pointing out that they're not going to run two of the same match. And don't, as you pointed out, Matt, we did have sort of a messed up DQ finish right back when Konami turned in Sapporo, where when Shiori won by DQ and Konami just belted a chair over her head and then spray painted her in the face. There really is no point in doing the exact same match twice. And Misfit Wrestling Podcast does make another very good point. The moment that the bell rings, you don't see Konami again. You see all the other members of Hate, and you see you see Azusa Inaba come in, you see Momo Watanabe come in, but they literally just take Konami and she is gone. I think if this was going to be an angle, there would have been some sort of Konami presence on camera, but I think they actually did their best to try and keep her off camera and sort of smuggle her out in as low-key circumstances as possible.
Not only that, did they carry her out and you never see her again? What does that do for Shuri? The fact that she was able to do that in 33 seconds to Konami, so that you don't see her ever again. So it gets, even though we want Shuri, big match Shuri, we love her, it gets Shuri over as best as they can in 33 seconds, as best as they can.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you. We're sort of, they are trying to make lemonade with lemons, aren't they? We've been dealt this hand. People get injured. It is pro wrestling after all. If she was injured going into this match, credit to at least trying to get something out there, to get the angle with Maya Fukuda out there. As Scotty Wrestling said, we were robbed of big match Syuri, and it does feel like a long time since we've had that big marquee Syuri match, and we've seen, big match Syuri, not just, the sort of chump leader of God's Eye who's constantly getting undermined and constantly being sort of tormented by the member of Hey. One thing that the joining of Maya Fukuda to God's Eye does do, and this has been pointed out by Mida, it does make Matoi's chances of joining the unit even less. Because if Micah said that they were sort of
too many people,
bloated at the seams, then they certainly are now. So
real quick, buddy, you keep going. I have to make room for all this beer I'm going to be drinking in a little bit. I'll be back in like 30 seconds.
Honestly, on a live stream as well, and he needs to go, and honestly. Let's talk then about this match. Natsuko Tora versus Micah. Natsuko Tora coming out the victor. Initially, I was quite shocked that Tora has walked out the winner. And I think in the prediction show, I actually said Micah's winning this. And I think I uttered the phrase, "This is the lock of the night," which, of course, is the kiss of death for anyone doing predictions. The more I think about it, the more this makes sense. Natsuko Tora is coming off the back of a 34-day run with the red belt, which, let's be brutally honest, was a shade pointless. But she comes into this having never won a no DQ match. She's had 2 and has lost 2 in Stardom. What does that tell you about your big bad heel? Matt, we were just saying that, of course, I said this was lock of the night, so of course it went the other way. But the more I was thinking about it, the more it made perfect sense. I feel like Tora, even though she is the leader of Hate, does feel a little bit lost in the shuffle almost. She's coming off the back of that negligible red belt reign. Let's be perfectly honest, it was a bit pointless. If anything, it was done as a smokescreen for Saya Kamatani's turn. That was all. But then when commentary announced that she's had 2 no DQ matches and she's lost both of them, I was like, if she loses a 3rd no DQ match that she specifically asked for, how do you recover from that? As well as having the shortest ever red belt reign, having excused yourself from the 5-star Grand Prix, how do you recover from that? And I think looking back on it, this was one of Tora's best performances, not only because she was bringing in weapons and slamming them all over Micah and, vice versa, but also the way Tora was selling some of these weapon shots made you feel the realism of some of it. The way that she took that slam through the table, the slam onto that board of Sapporo beer cans, which that was spot of the night for me. Micah bringing that out, brilliant. Instantly making Micah bleed within 30 seconds of the match. I think this was a really, really necessary shot in the arm of Tora's character. And, who has she been teaming with lately? Dun Matsumoto. And you could see that inspiration throughout the entirety of this match. Hiding the fork, we recently did 2 watch-alongs to the Dun Matsumoto and Chigusa Nagao matches from the 1980s. And, Dun Matsumoto hiding the fork behind her, that's exactly what Tora was doing here. And yes, you might argue that Micah needed the win. The more I look at it, the more I don't think she does. That's only her 3rd singles loss all year. She went through the entire 5-star Grand Prix unbeaten. She's won the red belt. She's had the red belt. She then lost the red belt and had another match for it. This is just a hole in the road that she is going to get back on to get back to that inevitable match with Saya Kamatani, presumably at next year's Dream Queendom. That's where I assume we are going to have the Micah and Saya Kamatani showdown. But for me, this was about rehabbing Tora, because if you are talking about Hate at the moment, you're talking about Tekla because of the suspension. You're talking about Momo Watanabe because everyone wants her to turn face, and the fantastic match she had with Mayu Iwatani at historic crossover. And now everyone's talking about Saya Kamatani. So really, you've got the leader of Hate, who is effectively fourth in the pecking order. You need something to make her seem like an absolute badass. And beating a bloodied Micah absolutely does that. And I said that Micah's only lost 3 matches this year. She has never beaten Natsuko Tora in singles action. Never beaten her. And of those 3 losses she's had this year, Tora has beaten her twice. So it does make her look like a badass. And again, speaking from a purely DQ aspect of the match, this was brutal. This was one of the most brutal matches we've seen in Stardom. And I do count that exploding baseball bat match in that. Because that spot where Micah takes the flat back bump onto those serrated cans, that cannot be pleasant at all. I don't care if they're rigged or whatever. That's not pleasant to take at all. And some of the stuff they were doing to each other was really, really, really savage. The only thing, and it's my only qualm, is there's a spot, and I text you, Matt, there's a spot where you've got that barbed wire pipe and they're on the outside and Tora is rubbing it across Micah's head and is very obviously cutting top of Micah's head at the same time.
The old poke and twist, yeah.
I don't have an issue with that. Don't have an issue with that. What I do have an issue with is the Stardom cameraman who zoomed in on it. What are you doing? Just look anywhere else in the arena. Look at the blood. Look at the floor. Look at the crowd. Don't look at the thing you're not supposed to see, cameraman. It's the one bit of camera work. I was like, oh.
Look at the 2 factions. You got Mina Shirakawa in there. Everybody likes looking at Mina Shirakawa and her fancy new shirt, that new comic book style shirt. Yeah, look at that.
Exactly. Everybody wants Mina. Look at Mina. Don't look at Tora gigging Micah.
When you text me that, I thought you meant Tora's gigging because the cameraman was on that as well. That was very, very blatant. That was very blatant. But again, it's so funny because how many times we say about how the great camera work, especially in the big tag matches where you don't see the person until the last second come in. Where this was like, we've done such a great job on these last second breakups where people aren't gonna see the person come in. Let's zoom in on everybody, getting some color, brother. So
I think it's simply because it just doesn't happen that often in Stardom.
No, never.
Oh, Jeff has literally just said that. That was great timing. We don't get that, do we? Really? But yeah, even so, it's like, come on, man. But it's the fact that it was happening and it carried on. I was like, look at someone else.
Poor Rob. Is this? I think I know this answer. Is this the most violent match in Stardom's history?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know when it was no DQ. We've seen Tora in these no DQs. We've seen these no DQ matches. Like, you get some tables, some trash cans, some chairs, maybe a couple of other things. When Tora came out with all that barbed wire, like, huh? And then Micah comes out, and there's 2 things I noticed. One, she's got a board. What's on the back? I'm like, it's probably barbed wire. And then it's I think the deathmatch wrestlers, and I have friends of mine that are deathmatch wrestlers. I think they call that the gusset board. And I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think when those serrated cans, I think it's called the gusset board. And I noticed, and Andy had to point this out, Micah's pants are white, which means that she's going to bleed because that's where you're going to get
100%. Yeah.
Considering the fact that what's her 2 big colors since she's been in Stardom, black and red. You're not going to see it that much. So it's like, oh, okay. Maybe you look at some of these, one of the reasons why Ric Flair always looked great bleeding because his hair was bleach blonde and it was a really cool look. You go back to ECW, Steve Corino, when he's in those main events, always had white hair, and it's a cooler visual. But I was like, and I knew when we got done recording the preview episode, I was like, I forgot to ask Rob if he thinks there's going to be blood in this match. To really get on anything else in this match. And we got it right in the beginning. And then Tora was bleeding as well. I mean, Micah was gushing. Gushing. And again, the crowd they were still a little confused at what happened at the last match. Again, even with the cool angle. But even when they came out with the weapons, they were kind of like, ooh, a little. And then the crowd was kind of still a little low. I'm like, oh, I hope this doesn't crush the crowd for the rest of the show. And then once Micah made her, again, I made mention at the beginning of this show that we're doing, once she made her comeback, her first comeback, and she's covered in blood and she's firing up, You're like, the crowd was just here, and then they just
Mhm.
stayed there for the rest of the show. So again, credit goes to both Tora and Micah to kind of have to follow up a really kind of odd angle. I don't know if anybody knew what was going on, but they just went out there and crushed it. And you made mention, Micah, just the fact that she doesn't lose, but the fact she lost here and she understand how to lose. And again, I'm talking about it, Micah. I'm talking about the next match and the Tam match. We see so many wrestlers that are past their prime that are still wrestling that won't put people over, or they won't put people over in the right way. I'm not going to mention any names. I think you and everybody else knows who I'm talking about. But like the fact that Micah loses, and the fact again, now she's got a lot of practice at losing. She's the reverse Matt Turner, she gets a lot of wins. I'd say I get a lot of time looking at the lights and counting the light bulbs and telling the promoter, light bulb over there is out. But she doesn't lose, but the way that she loses here, and there's so much babyface sympathy. And again, this is a completely different match. Look at what she did with her 6-7 month red belt run. Phenomenal. Again, to this day, I don't think it should have ended the way, it still should be going, in my opinion. She goes in the 5-star, first wrestler ever to go undefeated. She goes into tag league. She doesn't need a fall, and she literally teams with a rookie who, again, we think that she should have been teaming with Xena because Xena got injured. We thought it was almost a last-minute replacement. Has a great, great tournament. It's great in 6-person. It's great leading this faction in EXV. And then goes has a completely different match that we rarely see in Stardom and knocks it out of the park and has the most violent match in Stardom's history. I mean, it's just, and we knew, and we made mention this before. We knew this was going to be wrist lock, takeover, head scissors like this. We knew we were going to get this. I know it's going to be this into this nature because the blood added so much to it, and the way that Micah sold it and the way that Tora sold it. And then like Micah's first big move is she slams Tora off the top rope into the chairs. And we know that gusset board is going to come in, and Micah hits the superplex off the top rope through the board, where it's like, oh man, like that board didn't stand a chance because like the way, again, I think Micah's got the best superplex in all of wrestling. And it was just like, what a great comeback spot. Now the crowd is really ramping up and we're going back and forth. And she's hitting the Michinoku drivers and getting the ladders involved and the tables involved. And then you completely forgot that. And then Tora's hitting bomb after bomb after bomb. And you're waiting for Micah to do that big comeback that we've seen her do in their big 5-star matches and her big red belt matches. And just never comes. Tora just pours it on, bomb after Death Valley bomb onto that stack of like whatever's left of the gusset board and the table and the chairs and everything else. Then she goes to the top rope and she wraps the barbed wire around her. I'm like, I forgot about that. And now I'm thinking that, okay, she's going to miss the swanton and Mike is going to hit the Michinoku onto whatever's left in the ring. She hits the swanton and then we get the 3 count. And my feet actually froze when she was going for the swanton. And once it came back in, Tora had her hand raised. But I kind of figured, what happened. Then I went back and watched it. I was like, okay, that's something different. We do need to rehab Tora a little bit. That makes sense. As you mentioned, she's kind of the leader of this faction, but we're all about Kamatani. We're all about Momo. We're all about Tekla. A lot of us are about Rena, too. We've been championing Rena for the work that she's done. So she's almost getting lost in the shuffle over her own faction. So this was a big win. And considering the fact that we thought Micah was going to win to get her win back from earlier this year, we thought Tam was going to win to try to even up some of the score with Saya, but we didn't. We did get some big hate members getting the win. But at the same time, the big baby faces, Micah and Tam, in this match in the main event, they knew how to lose. They know how to lose. So there's more sympathy on them going into it. Again, Micah, phenomenal year. Phenomenal year. And, we talk about how great of a year Mayu has. A lot, Sari. We talk about great year that Sari has. Again, wrestling subjective. If you're asking me, and the year is pretty much over, you're asking me my wrestler of the year, number 1 is Will Ospreay. Number 2 is Mayu. Number 3 is Micah. I would like to have a debate with somebody. I will take Micah over Sari. That's how much I have enjoyed what Micah's been doing. I think her tournament match has been better. I think, and Sari's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying what Micah's doing. I'm really, and the fact this is a completely different match, and she knocked out of the park. Tora was phenomenal here as well. We got to give Tora a lot of credit. I know a lot of the discourse online is the love for Micah, and rightfully so. Tora was great. This is her style of match. Like, brother, this is 4 3/4 stars. This was a great match to get the crowd back up after the Shiri Konami thing, and then just led us into maybe the best 1-2 punch Stardom's ever done. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that and everybody else's thoughts on that that's watching this. But yeah, this is 4 3/4 stars, something completely different. And the fact that Stardom doesn't do these matches, or they didn't do them to this nature, we're going to remember this match for a long, long time. To the performance of both Micah and Tora really, really putting their necks out there for our entertainment. Again, 4 3/4 stars. This was brutally brilliant.
You said about this being Natsuko type of match, and I completely agree with you. I think this is where Natsuko certainly should excel. But her previous two, and to my knowledge, the previous two no DQ matches she's had were both against Julia. And the first one, I seem to remember being very confused as to what they were going for, whether it was a comedy thing or whether they were trying to go full brutality. And they ended up, because they were trying to do both, they ended up doing neither. Second one was better, but I don't think it went long enough. And I don't think, for what they were trying to do and for what both women were capable of doing, I don't think that they really hit the ball, hit the mark that they were aiming for. However, here, I feel like Micah was the perfect dance partner for Tora here. And I do wonder if it was a case of Micah just saying, yeah, do what you want to me. That's absolutely fine. Let's make this as destructive as humanly possible. Because you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of people in the chat saying Micah still looked like a boss in this loss, and I know that rhymes and that's because I'm awesome. But but Tora, I feel like, because we are, maybe this is the slow reintroduction of blood, not in every match. Nobody wants to see that as an odd thing, especially if Tora is going to do more of this style of match, which she sort of alluded to in her post-match, that she wants to do more of this type of match. If this is something that we are looking to do with Tora, almost, I don't want to say making her dump Matsumoto light, because that's not fair, but sort of in that sort of mold, then blood certainly helps that. And, it's not the be all and end all, and I don't think it ever will be in wrestling. Plenty of companies have gone through their entire WotC without putting blood in. But yeah, she looked like she was both women looked like they were having a lot of fun in this match. And again, it's the most I've seen Tora sell, and that includes when she was having her knee targeted by Tam. You really felt like everything hurt. And because both women were willing to put themselves through that, it made you have more respect for them. I think there's a lot more rehabbing of Tora to do. And I don't think it's Tora's fault at all. I just think, because hate are the thing to push at the moment, the heel faction, the new heel faction, if you want the new old heel faction, I feel like she is regularly being forgotten because of Saya Kamatani, Mo Watanabe, Tekla. There's almost too many faces of hate for Natsuko Tora to shine. So if this can be Natsuko Tora's niche, just this barbaric, brutal style of match, make it your thing in the same way that Dump Matsumoto made it her thing in the 80s. Maybe she wasn't in good, maybe she wasn't as good in the ring as your Manami Toyotas, your Chigusa Nageos, your Lioness Asukas, but she stood out. She found that niche for herself. Maybe that's what Natsuko Tora needs to do. And maybe that's the inspiration that she's taking from Dump Matsumoto. Find your niche and lean into that niche. I do think her red belt reign hurt her. I really do. Losing it to a Tam that's just lost 6 matches in a row in the 5-star Grand Prix is basically on one leg, and it's a match that you suggested. It worked for the story, but I mean, it makes Tora like an absolute chump. And I feel like this goes some way to rectifying that. And if we can build on that in 2025, then I'm very happy about that. I really enjoyed this match.
What was your star rating?
I'm going to tell you now. I gave it 4 stars. 4 stars. What did you give it?
I give 4 and 3/4, as I said. I mean, you have to give the danger effort and just the selling of Mike and the firing up. Something just crossed my mind. Little dream booking. Well, how about a little no DQ tag match for the Goddess belts? BMI 2000 versus Hanan and Saida. Do that in Korakuen Hall. Can you imagine a running wild Saida in a no DQ match in the babyface selling of Hanan? Put that baby in Korakuen Hall. There you go, buddy. Yeah, because you can do the tag matches as well. Obviously, it doesn't need to be this dangerous. Like this would be like once in a year style thing. You can do the chairs, the tables, the cans, but yeah, this was a whole nother level. And again, give credit to both ladies, as it was like, we're getting ready to take a breath, and they went in intermission. And then, yeah, I guess not unless there's anything else you want to say. You want to talk about one of the greatest Wonder of Stardom Championship matches that these eyes have ever seen, buddy.
Yeah, let's talk about it, shall we? Starlight Kid versus Natsupoi. This was pretty damn good. We knew it would be, and we knew it would be a case of which would break first, the leg or the arm. And they did a very good job of subverting your expectations, because I was convinced that this match was going to end when Starlight Kid was literally ragdolling Natsupoi around the ring by her leg, because of the work they'd done on all the Stardom World shows and all the preview tags and things like that. And then it carried on. And I was like, whoa, these two women are going for it. One thing I will say, and if you go back and watch it, we talk sometimes about lose face, about those people that you know are going to lose because of their facial expression as they come down. Natsupoi had lose face.
I watched it twice and I didn't even notice it. You know why? Because of the gear.
Proper tower, like. However, don't care about that, because this match banged. Absolutely banged. Both. I could go into incredible granular detail about the work they do, the speed at which they wrestle, the finesse with which Starlight Kid is able to perform some of these moves, the incredible reversal that Natsupoi does into the fairy magic, the even better reversal where Starlight Kid has got the Black Tiger leg killer locked in. Natsupoi somehow manages to reverse that into the cross arm breaker. And Starlight Kid keeps the Black Tiger leg killer locked in and transitions it back into that. And it was just a spot that went bang, bang, bang. And it's like, how is this happening? That's incredible. Both women looked absolute killer, by the way. Like, that Natsupoi entrance gear is top notch, but Starlight Kid's white and gold gear, goodness gracious me, outstanding. Andy Hedder's SLK's gear and mask were awesome.
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah. Honestly, incredible. I think these two have absolutely amazing chemistry together. They really, really do. Again, you've got the speed of those high-speed exchanges, the brutality with which they are hitting each other and destroying limbs, yet both are so good at selling. Like, Natsupoi selling that eternal foe. Like, just the look on her face as though, like, everything had gone, and then kicking out at one. And at no point am I thinking, sell the move, Natsupoi. It was all in the match. It just, everything fit, everything worked. It was the longest match on the card, and at no point did I feel like it was going too long. And again, that subversion of, yeah, we've worked the leg and we've worked the arm throughout all of these tags, but it's not going to be the finish here, because we are both that obsessed with this white belt that it's going to take something else to win. You know, we've got Starlight Kid breaking out moves that we've never seen before. You know, the Tiger Driver, which, if she's broken out before, she hasn't broken out very often. You know, the Eternal Foe, which we've only seen her successfully break out, I believe, twice. And I think they're both against Azumi.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, showing this desperation as we get towards the close. And Natsupoi is such an underrated seller, not just because she gets kicked like a football every time she's in the ring with Shiori, and she ends up in the second row every time she gets kicked in the spine by this woman, but because her facials, those subtleties, those nuances of pro wrestling, that, for as much as I mocked the camera work for Micah and Natsukatora, that camera work where you are literally staring into Natsupoi's eyes as she's getting desperately close to the ropes when she's in that Black Tiger leg. She was in that move for ages as well. And she's agonizingly crawling towards the ropes. And just as she gets there, the crocodile roll into the middle of the ring. And that's when Natsupoi transitions it into the cross arm breaker. And that's when Starlight Kid transitions that into the Black Tiger leg killer again. It was all seamless. And to do what they do at the pace at which they do it, and for it all to be so smooth, is a testament to just how talented these two wrestlers are. Natsupoi is incredible and deserves all the flowers in the world. If I can be nitpicky for one moment, it's that I wish that her white belt reign had gone longer and we'd had more defenses. That's my one regret, because Natsupoi is tremendous. Fantastic match with Soriano. Great match against Hazuki. Divisive match against Tekla. And I think a lot of this reign was taken up with the feud with Tekla. And I think to hold the belt for, let me just double check, I'm sure it was close to 150 days, 155 days. And to defend it 3 times, I feel like you could have done another couple of defenses that really showcase Natsupoi to be the tremendous wrestler we all know that she could be. That being said, Starlight Kid at the top of Stardom feels right. It really, really does. It feels like it's her time. And at 23 years old, the world is her oyster. It really, really is. And you think about the matches that we could have now. I think everyone that I'm looking at the moment really does seem to think it's going to be Hazuki that dethrones her. And I think that should be the match. Whether that is at All-Star Grand Queendom, obviously that's 4 months away, almost exactly to the day. I don't know if I want that to happen yet. I don't know if I'd want Starlight Kid to only hold it for 4 months. I want to see Starlight Kid versus Azumi for the white belt. I want to see Starlight Kid versus Natsupoi run back. I want to see Starlight Kid versus Soriano run back.
There it is.
I want to see Starlight Kid versus Xena. I want to see Starlight Kid versus Hanan. I want to see Starlight Kid versus Mayu Iwatani. There's so many people on the roster that Starlight Kid can have fantastic matches with, because I know, and I think everyone knows that watches Stardom, that Starlight Kid will eventually be at the top of this company and will be a red belt champion. I think that she, again, we talk about it all the time about how some wrestlers, you know that they're not going to get that red belt. They're going to be a really good wrestler. They haven't quite got what it takes, whether it's aura, whether it's the intangibles, whatever it is, they're not going to reach the summit of the company. Starlight Kid is not one of those people. She's talented in ring. She is 23 years old. She has aura for days. She sells merch like no tomorrow. She's in the hottest faction in Stardom. She is going to be a red belt champion. Give us a 6-month run for Starlight Kid now, where she just puts on absolute bangers and really, really cement just how damn good she is in ring, because this was absolutely magnificent.
You mentioned a lot of opponents that you want to see Starlight Kid defend the Wonder. What about WBC?
WBC?
White Belt Clown. you walked right into that one, buddy.
Not until they run the Tokyo Dome, Matt. Not until they run the Tokyo Dome. Come on.
I think they need to run that on a beach because they can fill up 2 million people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beach Blast 1995 or whatever it was.
There it is. Yeah, I mean, this was, there's so many great points that you hit on. Yeah, I'm the same way. Natsupoi's run should have been longer, but at the same time, Starlight, how do you say no to Starlight Kid? Even Tam's run should have been longer. How do you say no to what they're doing with Saya Kamatani? We may mention this every week, especially when we preview this show. The white belt and red belt scene is so hot right now that you can kind of hot potato it a little. You can get 3-4 defenses, because Natsupoi only had 2 successful defenses, right? Tekla and Hazuki. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, she spent so long chasing that belt, but at least she got it. And one of the best 5-star Grand Prix ever this past year, she was the white belt champion going in. So we'll always have that, you know what I mean? So it's we'll always remember when you talk about the fight. There it is, the clown, my man. But yeah, I totally agree. But at the same time, Starlight Kid is white hot, pun intended there. So it's pull the trigger, pull the trigger, because you have so many people in the pipeline that's ready. Starlight Kid goes, defends this belt on her V1 and say it in Nagoya Supreme fight, and it gets Hazuki, and Hazuki wins. nobody's going to complain because it's Suzuki. We want her to get there. So maybe it's Suzuki. Maybe in May, because they do those hometown shows for Hazuki on Golden Week in Fukuoka. That's a possibility. Again, I think to pull the trigger because we want Hazuki to win in the biggest way possible is going to be at All-Star Grand Queendom. But again, I don't know. There's a lot set up for Starlight Kid. I think you run this match back because even Starlight Kid said, hey, we're eternal foes. We're going to be doing this forever. This was the reverse Miko Wada Soriano match where it's like, we're done. We're like, no, we're just getting started because we feuded for the high-speed championship and we feuded for the tag belts and we feuded for the goddess belts as well. My Himipoi, if you remember, their long reign ended with Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, and Saki Kashima. So, and obviously you had Mel Tier and Black Desire. They did some feuding for the goddess belts back in 2022. Obviously in 2021, they feuded for the high-speed championship. Now we're moving up the card to the white belt. It's only a matter of time before they're feuding for the red belt. And each matches just get better. They really do. I mean, this was a whole nother level of great. And again, give credit to Mike and Tor for setting the table for this because they were so into this. This is just baby great wrestler versus great wrestler. Who's better? Starlight Kid comes out, massive reaction. I was like, oh, how are they going to respond to Natsupoi? Massive reaction. All anybody in that building wanted is the same thing that I'm sure me and you and everybody else watching this and listening to this wanted was a great wrestling match. And we got a phenomenal wrestling match. I knew it was going to be phenomenal because it started with a big lockup, Rob. I have to mention that. I love me a big lockup.
Love a lockup.
Love a good lockup. And then they start doing high speed. And then Starlight Kid, like 90 seconds in, hits the Asai moonsault. And I was like, oh, man, we're not slowing down. But eventually we get to the knee. We get to the leg. You're right. Starlight Kid does the Tiger Driver. Why hasn't she done that before? One, it's great. It's called the Tiger Driver. She's the Sky Tiger. How do we not put that together? And the way that she pins, because as soon as she went for the Tiger Driver and she leaned on her and she had the ankle right around her head, when she kicks out, it goes right into the stretch muffler, the Black Tiger leg killer. So I was like, oh, babe, that's perfect. It's a perfect transition, and it's great. You're absolutely right. There are so many great moments and certain segments and moves in this match, but it's the moments, it's the emotion, it's listening to the crowd that got this match at a fever pitch. You get Starlight Kid putting Natsupoi in the Black Tiger leg killer. Well, it's really on the stretch muff at this point, and then the crowd goes ooh, and then she 360s her. She airplane spins with her, and the crowd really pops. They go back and forth. She gets it in again, and you can see, Natsupoi's gonna eventually get to the ropes, but they wait, and the crowd is antsy. Now they're behind Natsupoi. Half the crowd wants Natsupoi to tap. Half the crowd wants Natsupoi to get the ropes. They wait. Natsupoi, again, the camera work was perfect. Natsupoi's facial was like, oh my, like what's going to happen? You believe she's going to actually tap out. And she finally gets the ropes. And what does Starlight Kid do? It felt like it took forever for her to get the ropes. Because as a Natsupoi fan, I'm a fan of both these wrestlers. I just want the match to keep going. But she gets the ropes. Like, okay, thank God she got the ropes. And Starlight Kid rolls her back through. But when she does, Natsupoi then rolls her back into the armbar. And I love all the different falsies on the fairy magic. Because there's the first time she gets it for a 2 count. The second time, Starlight Kid, because she knows Natsupoi so well, stacks her. Third time, she gets it again. And the third time she got it, she ends up in the ropes. But Natsupoi kicks the rope and almost slides the two of them closer to the middle of the ring. So usually when you're in a pinfall, the person getting the fall wants to go to the ropes to break it. Natsupoi used it to slide it back. And I'm almost positive that was an audible because no way you call that spot. So great quick thinking from Natsupoi. But I love how at the end of this match, where you see Natsupoi, she hits the Pharaoh gift, gets a 2 count. She goes for the twisting Pharaoh gift, which she only breaks out. She's only broke out twice. I think the 2 matches, the Tekla, the singles match, and then the tagging match at Historic Crossover. So she goes to the top rope after all this crazy stuff with the leg tiger, with the leg crusher submission. She gets to the top rope and she can't get up all the way. She climbs to the second and the third, but can't put her left leg on the third. And you can see she starts punching her knee pad because her leg is beat up. That gives Starlight Kid enough time to go to the top rope and hits the eternal foe. And the fact they almost lost balance, like you see, like Natsupoi's like, oh, and then Starlight Kid uses that to make the momentum go back, and she hits the perfect eternal foe. Like, oh, that was so cool because one, the psychology of the knee damage stopped Natsupoi from hitting what I thought was going to be the twisting Pharaoh gift. And then Starlight Kid almost saves Natsupoi's life and then makes the bump even look cooler. And then we get a kick out at once. So it's like you have all these great things that just happen in like 30 seconds. You're like, what can possibly happen? I'm glad that we were doing this show today, that I watched this match twice, because not that I have good handwriting to begin with, partner. I was writing so fast and trying to keep up that it literally looks like chicken scratch. But this was next level pro wrestling. Starlight Kid hits the pile driver, and she hits the pile driver. I thought she was going to go for the moonsault because who's Starlight Kid's mentor? Mayu. What does Mayu do? Tombstone, moonsault. Who's Mayu's mentor? Io. What was Io doing in 2015, 16, 17? Tombstone into the moonsault. So I thought she was going to go for another moonsault. She didn't. She went for another tiger suplex that ultimately puts Starlight Kid away. That's a move we've seen Starlight Kid win matches with over the last few years. It's usually the Black Tiger pile driver, some sort of roll up, or the moonsault. She needs to be winning every match with a tiger suplex. And I know there's a lot of people in Stardom that do it. Obviously, Soriano, Tam Nakano, but regardless, it's a thing of beauty. It is an absolute thing of beauty. And this match was a thing of beauty. It was absolutely fantastic. There's that one point where Starlight Kid hits the tiger suplex. She goes for it again. Natsupoi kicks her knee out. Ferial magic. I thought that was the finish, but the finish came at the right time. It was brilliant wrestling, brilliant psychology. In my opinion, I'm going to give a couple opinions, and I think you're going to agree with these three. This is the best Starlight Kid versus Natsupoi match. Agree?
Oh, yeah.
This is the best out of these 4 Dream Queendoms. This is the best Wonder of Stardom championship match.
Hang on. Bear with me.
Do you want me to tell you?
You've got Tam and Saya.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Saya and Haruka Umasaki.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got Soriano and Mirai. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Okay. And this is the best Wonder match all year.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And of course, there's been some great ones. Every Soriano one's been great. The Natsupoi, Hazuki's been great. Now, this is where I'm really curious, and I want to hear everybody in chat's opinion. Where does this rank as all-time great Wonder of Stardom championship match? You mentioned at the start of this podcast, the barometer that maybe no one will ever touch is Saya and Hazuki. So off the top of my head, and again, and I'm just thinking about this. This might be a great roundtable discussion. Is Saya and Hazuki's number 1, Hazuki and Momo's number 2. I'm going to say Saya and Mina from All-Star Grand Queendom's number 3. And then I think it's this. I mean, Arisa and Hazuki's up there. I mean, those are the top 3 for me.
Arisa and Tam.
Arisa and Tam is a really good one. I think I like this one a little more because
Jungle and Momo too.
Oh, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah, those are all great ones.
Boogaloo.
Those are a lot. I mean, there's so many great. It's Saya Kamatani's entire run. I
mean,
even,
every match.
Even Saya and Starlight Kid might be better than this. Which is, I mean, and then again, this is. I put this on Twitter. I said you're not gonna have to wait for the review. This is 5 stars. I mean, this is as easy as a 5 stars. This is 5 stars. But I mean, there's so many great Wonder of Stardom championship matches, but this is like 5 or 6 for me. Again, I mean, that's Saya. I mean, there's so many of those great in the Saya run, but even like those 2 great Momo Io matches from 2018, I think this match was better, which is saying something because again, 2 of our 4 people on the Mount Rushmore. This is great. This is Starlight Kid's, other than maybe the Mayu match from the 2022 finals and maybe the Saya match for the white belt, maybe Starlight Kid's best match. This is Natsupoi's best singles match, in my opinion. As far as her best match, there was some Meltier stuff that was great. There was the Soripoi versus Wingori match from just a few weeks ago. Soripoi versus Crazy Star from last year. I think we're a little bit better, but as far as singles match goes, I think this is the best Natsupoi match, which is saying something because she's got a lot of bangers in that catalog.
I do agree with you. I think the cage match with Tam was really good as well. In terms of Starlight Kid singles matches, I am inclined to agree with you. However, I think that Azumi match from the Cinderella Journey in Nagaoka in 2022, that was also absolutely tremendous. Mida makes a really good point. A white belt match we haven't mentioned: Julia versus Tam, hair versus hair.
Yeah, that as far as it was a different style match. And obviously, it's a huge draw, but I like this match better. Again, it's subjective. It's subjective.
Hi, Spareef. Sorry, just seeing that you've joined. Hello. Hope you're having a really good evening. He thinks that it's top 3. His favorite Starlight Kid match ever. Misfit Wrestling podcast says he still thinks that Momo is the best Wonder Champion. Fair enough. You won't get many people to argue with you there, to be fair. Thomas Bauer, Saya had banger after banger during her run. Absolutely. In terms of Nat's Poi singles match, I think it probably is her best singles match. Kid, I think it's probably 1A or 1B. It's certainly up there. In terms of Wonder of Stardom championship matches ever, I think obviously Saya and Hazuki is still my number one. I have a real soft spot for Momo versus Jungle, both matches, but especially number 2. Tam and Arisa as well, because not only the match, but everything it signified and all the emotion that went with it. However, as a pure wrestling match, there are very few that are better than this. Very few. You have got 2 very talented, very special wrestlers putting on a very, very special match, and I can't wait for Dave Meltzer to give it 4 3/4 stars.
You think he's gonna go that high? You think he's gonna go that high? Look at you. You're in a positive thinking mode. And the post match was great. It was just the beauty of putting the, and just you can see Starlight Kid. And again, I didn't realize until I watched it back a second time. Starlight Kid wins with the Tiger Suplex. She stays in the bridge, very much like Tam did when she beat Julia back in Budokan. She's just staying in that bridge, but she's crying. And even though she's wearing a mask, you can see the emotion. And that's so hard to do. You can see the emotion that she finally got there. And she did it with, one of her eternal foes in front of 4,000 people in a match that absolutely stole the show. And you can just see the emotion in the 2 of them. And it was just like, this is why I love pro wrestling. This is why I have no problem getting up at just weird hours, running on next to no sleep, to be able to watch 2 wrestlers in their prime in front of a red hot crowd, sold out Sumo Hall show. And the fact that we get to talk about this and other people are chiming in, I mean, who's got it better than us, buddy? Really, who's got it better than us? And the fact that they both look great. And I'm sure Andy Header is probably has them as 1A and 1B as his favorite gear of the night.
Absolutely. And again, we've talked about Starlight Kid's gear because it was tremendous and it did suit her. But again, for me, Natsupoi's entrance gear is absolutely tremendous. One thing I will say, and sort of end on this note, because we could go on about this match for absolute days, and we're already 2 hours and 40 minutes into the podcast, and we haven't talked about the main event yet. It didn't feel like it was time for Natsupoi to drop the belt, but it felt like time for Starlight Kid to win it. So I think Stardom found themselves a little bit in a catch-22 where one had to give. And I think that Natsupoi dropping the belt to Starlight Kid was the natural thing to happen. Yes, it's disappointing that Natsupoi didn't go on to have the matches that we would have loved her to have. And again, I do think that the feud with Tekla and, everything that went on with Historic Crossover and the build to Historic Crossover did sort of stagnate that a little bit. I think if we hadn't have had that, we might have had another 2 or 3, defenses in there. However, again, we've had some really good ideas in the chat. We had Thomas Bauer, I think, said, SLK versus Mina, which would be a great idea. Andy Hedder just wants all Neo Genesis matches. SLK versus Suzu versus Meisera versus Azumi. Do you know what? I'm going to stick Miyu Amasaki on there as well, because I think she'd be great in that match as well. Mida with the left field pick that I completely agree with. SLK versus Mesa Rugger.
Oh,
yeah, that's been everyone else's reaction as well.
Yeah,
but yeah, some really, really good,
good stuff, gang. Yeah, good stuff.
Let's move on then to the main event. Then Tam Nakano versus Saya Kamatani. Saya Kamatani becoming the 20th World of Stardom champion, ending Tam's second run with the belt at 120 days. We might as well get this out of the way. Saya tried to legit kill Tam. We were very much revisiting the days of Kagetsu and Mayu with the hangings, and it is the first hangings since those days, because I refuse to accept Natsuko Tora trying to end every single match in 2020 by hanging someone over the top rope, because it just did not work. So this was really impactful, but it wasn't just about that spot. It wasn't just about Tam Nakano flinging Saya Kamatani off the apron to the floor with that suplex with utter reckless abandon. It wasn't it wasn't just about Saya Kamatani, performing the same spot that broke her wrist, taking that dive off the balcony to really showcase just how much she's grown as a competitor. There's so much to take from this match. It isn't just about Tam Nakano literally grasping Saya's hand in the middle of the ring, sobbing and basically begging her to come back as she's drilling her with forearms, trying almost to, even though we're in this fight, even though we're in this battle, I am going to try everything I can to draw the darkness out of you. And then, of course, we had the injury angle, which was very reminiscent, really, of when Billy Starks did this at Supercard of Honor. And I wonder if that's where Saya got the idea, feigning injury to get the victory. But I thought this worked really well. Now, I'm going to go out straight away and say I don't think this was as good as their World Climax match, because it was different. The dynamic was very different. Obviously, you've got a heel Saya, you've got Tam as the champion. There was lots of things that I really enjoyed about this match, and the sort of breathless nature of it and the recklessness of some of the spots, the emphasis put on the change in Saya Kamatani's character and the way she works, I think worked really well. The only issue is no one wants to boo Saya Kamatani.
Shockingly.
And I think that might be why ending the pay-per-view with her crown champion worked, because no one wanted to boo her. She got booed once, I believe, and that was when she did the kick on the apron and the eye spot.
Ooh, no, she got booed real bad when this was genius. This was genius because it was, and the commentators, like, everybody's pulling for Tam, nobody's pulling for Saya, and Xena was like, no, we need to make mention that people still love Saya. And again, I'm a huge fan of both these ladies very much. In the match prior, if I was in the building, I'd be cheering for both. And the fact that we didn't get interference was great. Yeah, I love that. This was genius by Saya Kamatani, because now we have a new champion. What are we doing with Tam? Because this is her second red belt run, and we get Tam over because Tam knows how to lose. Saya got booed out of the building in a good way when she made Tam put the belt on her.
Yes,
and then she smacked her in the face. That was genius. That was genius. But you're right. Who's booing? Go. You have your finger up. Go ahead, buddy. And then I'll finish my thought.
Only because that was perfect for two reasons. One, really cements Saya as a obnoxious, conceited heel. Love that. Second, the eerie parallels to when they did that at Dream Queendom 2021.
3 years ago to the date. 3 years ago to the date. Tam
willingly puts that white belt around Saya's waist as a passing of the torch. And here, Saya demands that Tam does it. So you have got those beautiful side-by-side images of the same thing happening, but such a different context. It's such a simple thing, but it just topped off the match brilliantly. You've got this Saya who, yes, no one wants to boo. She's the coolest heel. Like, Andy Heather has actually said, I said boo when she turned heel, and now I like heel Saya more. I mean, yeah, I sort of agree. In terms of personality, there's far more to Saya Kamatani now than there was when she was a babyface. I mean, she does considerably less crying as a heel. She used to cry at the drop of a hat when she was a babyface.
She cried when Mike beat her in the 5-star finals, though.
Did she? I think she just has something in her eye.
Comes in her contacts.
But that did so much more for her as a heel than anything she did in the match. She literally hung. She literally tried to murder someone, and it didn't get as much of a reaction as that moment where she demanded this sobbing, broken Tam Nakano to get down on your knees and put this around my waist. And just watching her doing it, laughing at her, it was like, oh, this is brilliant. This is pro wrestling theater at its best. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about outfits. Obviously, Saya came out in their usual all black. Tam, new gear, snow falling, you want to talk about Aura? We talk about Miko Wada and Natsupoi and Soria, and Tam's got it in spades. I mean, she's on that Julie level. Again, there's a reason why people 4,000 people paid for this show because, and again, majority of these tickets were sold with just this sole match. Tease, not announced because, again, no match graphic.
Didn't
And
have a match graphic.
Buddy, I'm backing you. Uncle MT's always got your back. But we knew this was going to be good. We knew this was going to be crazy. And it sure was. You had your great, you had some wrestling to start, some strikes back and forth, the spills to the outside. Tam does the violent shooting on the outside, and then you're by the entranceway where they would come out if they didn't have the stage, which the stage, by the way, was beautiful, just brilliant. And I'm like, okay, so Tam's going to jump off that because we know it's how you literally have to go after the Micah Tora match and then that instant Wonder of Stardom Classic match. How are they going to top this? So you know somebody's going to do something crazy more than once. So I thought that Tam was going to dive off that. And then all of a sudden here comes the chain, and then she goes to hang Tam. And then it's just like she kind of gets a little bit of a reaction there, but nobody's booing Saya because how are you going to boo somebody that is jumping off that giant thing? And I mean, that was, you knew she was coming off it. So that happens there. They tease the double count out. And I love Tam's, like, what's the first thing Tam does when she gets an advantage? You know, you just try to choke me with the chain. You dove onto me and my faction, your faction. They beat the count barely, but Saya Kamatani's back turns to Tam. Tam has her first advantage after almost getting choked with a chain. What is the first thing she do? And I kind of saw it coming. I'm like, gosh, she's going to hit a German suplex on the apron. She hits it off the apron. Like, Saya Kamatani takes a full blind bump off the apron to the floor. And I was like, oh, wow. We literally just had two almost attempted murders back to back. And then we're not done. We get in the ring. And you're right. They have those wrist clutch forearms back and forth where Tam was like, no, Sai, you need to come back, which you know it's going to happen. It might not be in 2025. It might not be in 2026. But when we're going to eventually get the melding of the Golden Phoenix and the Phoenix Queen, you know we're eventually going to get there because even her music says the Golden Phoenix is dead. What does the Phoenix always do? It always rises. Andy Hedder's on this chat. He will tell you about the Phoenix and the X-Men comics. It always rises. So you know whenever they're ready to pull the trigger, very much like they did with Starlight Kid, very much like you know they can do with Momo Watanabe, whenever they're ready to pull the trigger, it's there when you can meld the two, and it's going to be the coolest thing ever. Again, when the time is right. So these two are going back and forth. Tam hits a beautiful Tiger suplex. Kamatani kicks out at one. Tam goes for the violent screwdriver. Saya hits a reverse hurricanrana. Tam kicks out at one. They're going back and forth. Tam hits maybe the most violent shooting. I mean, she properly jumped up and tried to plant Kamatani headfirst in that match with that violent screwdriver. Yeah. That was something. That was great. Kamatani's coming back with the kick exchange. She hits the Kikagoye. She hits a couple of Star Crushers. And then she goes to the top rope. And I was like, this is brilliant because she retired the Phoenix Splash. And I'm like, she has to break this out. She literally, and she can't put Tam away. She can't. This is a different Tam that she's wrestled in this building back at World Climax 2 years ago and back 3 years ago to the date of the very first Dream Queendom. She's got to go back to the bag that she never said she would. She goes to the top rope for the Phoenix Splash, and Tam tries to commit murder again. And she hits a top rope Tiger suplex, and Kamatani properly takes on her shoulder and her neck to the point. And I was like, is she hurt? Is she not? I mean, they did a great job of this, of blurring the lines. And again, kind of pulling back the curtain. Like, is this an angle? Is it not? Because we've seen this happen before. And we know these two are going to do something crazy. And that's a crazy, crazy bump. And all of a sudden you see the doctor come in and the doctor gets pushed away. And Saya uses Tam's emotions against her. And then Daichi gets pushed into Tam. It's not a disqualification because Daichi can't see. Quick hurricanrana, boom, boom, boom. She hits the violent screwdriver that leads to the 360 Star Crusher. This was brilliant. You're absolutely right. Wrestling theater. This was my favorite match between the two. This was not only a great match, but a great before match with the entrances and the aura, and a great post match that it's like, okay, here we go. And it's going to be exciting to see what Saya Kamatani's reign is going to be. Again, very much like Natsupoi, I don't think it was time to take the red belt off Tam, but very much like Starlight Kid is ready. Saya Kamatani is ready for that red belt. We knew she was after the Wonder of Stardom Championship, but now she has this cool aura to her. We're going to be paying money to see. We hear all the time from our friends over that work in Stardom and from our fans that go to Stardom shows that Kamatani's merchandise always sells out. By the end of the show, her merchandise always sells out. So it's like she's selling tickets, she's selling merch, She's phenomenal in the ring. I mean, there's no more than 3 or 4 people better than her, in my opinion, in this company than her in the ring, even with the heel persona. I mean, again, this was very much like Kid and Natsupoi. You could have went either way and it wouldn't have mattered because what's best for business, either one. Either one. I think this was terrific. 5 stars for me. I would really have to sit there and think about this. But as far as Wonder and then World back-to-back matches, Stardom history, this might be number 1. The fact that you did it in front of 4,000 people, the second biggest house in the history of Sumo Hall behind the 84,000 people for Yuzuki Aikawa's retirement match. But no, the fact you did it in front of 4,000 people and they were hot for everything and it was a great show, and you give them this back-to-back, again, I'd really have to sit there and think about it. But if you were to ask me right now, what are the best Wonder and World matches back-to-back in Stardom's history, I would have to say what I watched this morning. Again, this was great. There's so much on the plate now. And again, Tam puts the belt on Saya, does it reluctantly because Saya wants it, and then slaps her. Tam goes back and cuts a Venom-like promo where Tam's going to get her revenge. And it doesn't necessarily need to be for the red belt. If Saya drops the red belt in 6-7 months, you can go to Dream Queendom next year and do like a no DQ. It's basically no DQ with Tam versus Saya because they're not getting counted out for the 30 minutes that they're doing all the crazy stuff. But you know that Tam, again, very much like Micah, very much like Natsupoi, and again, Tam taking a loss here, knowing how to lose because now there's more sympathy, more steam behind Tam. What's Tam going to do next? Why don't you find out January 3rd and buy a ticket or a pay-per-view as she wrestles her former friend, now turned foe, Inunagi. You literally had Tam lose this match and sell more tickets and more pay-per-views on the intrigue on what she's going to do next coming up going into Unagi. Brilliant, phenomenal show. Top 3 or 4 favorite Stardom show of all time. This is my favorite wrestling show of the entire year, whether it's, I mentioned it at the start of the show, but it's AEW, WWE, TNA, Marigold, which have all put on great shows. So the best wrestling show I've seen all year. This was absolutely, and it had something for everybody. It really, really did. It had something for everybody. So I'm super excited for the what's going to be in store for the future of Stardom, because let's see if they can keep this momentum up going into the first quarter of next year with our 2 new champions.
It's interesting that you say that because I'm just looking at the card that we've got so far from New Year Dream on January 3rd, and there is no Starlight Kid on the card. There is no Saya Kamatani on the card. There's no Shiori on the card. There's no Momo Watanabe on the card. There is no Tekla on the card. Oh, no, there is Tekla on the card. I apologize. So we have got a couple of directions that we can go. I'll be intrigued to see if on January 3rd we do get some sort of direction in terms of challenges, because obviously we didn't get any challenges at the end of this show. None for the red belt, none for the white belt, none for the goddess. So where do we go next? I mean, we've got Suzu Suzuki that isn't on this card. Could we have Suzu Suzuki maybe challenge Saya Kamatani for the red belt? That would be a interesting matchup.
Sure. Here's something too you have to think of, partner. I was thinking about, and if I don't say this now, I'm going to forget, is ever since Hate has been formed, you've had certain people going up against them, right? You have obviously had Micah and some of EXV. All of Cosmic Angels has been feuding with Hate since their inception. You've had, some things with Neo Genesis here or there, but it's mostly been like Tam, Micah, and Shuri with a little bit of the faction members. Hate now has the red belt, and I'm going to guess Saya is going to have a much longer run than Tora. Tora just got a big win.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, and rightfully so. So who is going to do? And again, we saw last week with everybody from the leaders of these factions defending against Hate. Stardom against Hate. However, there's one person we have not seen really go up against Hate. Hate now has the biggest prize in all of Stardom and should go on a tear. What about the icon of Stardom? She is literally the icon of it. It fits right there. She's literally the icon of Stardom. She really, other than stopping Clark Connors from that second spear at Korakuen Hall, which I think he just stopped because he saw Sherry and was like, I'm out of here. I don't need this. I don't get paid enough of this. But she's the icon of Stardom. Hate is taking over, and they're there to ruin Stardom or whatever. You're literally the icon of Stardom. Again, another match that we may see in Yokohama. Mayu Iwatani versus Saya Kamatani for the World of Stardom Championship. We have not seen Mayu get a shot at that red belt since Sherry back in 2020, right? At World Climax Night 2.
2022, yeah.
which was a 5-star match, by the way, folks. Anybody tells you different,
Absolutely.
I'll give them a hug. But and this was a 5-star match. This was great. It's just another level that they're doing, and I'm so excited to see the direction. And we've been doing this podcast for 3 hours, and I haven't said it yet, and I'm going to say it now. I was wrong about Saya Kamatani's heel turn because I love me some heel Saya. And again, Tam coming off a loss, she just knows how to lose, and there's more sympathy on her going into the new year. So just excellent stuff. Great show, great production work. Just phenomenal. Just phenomenal show.
Yeah, agreed. Completely agree. Now, couple of things to talk about before we go off the air. And it's basically, I just want to talk about a little bit to do with Stardom's year as a whole. So I've got a couple of stats in regard to 2024 from Stardom. So they run 126 shows this year compared to the 140 in 2023. It's the second most they've ever run. In terms of total attendance, 83,650 people have watched Stardom in 2024. More interestingly, they have achieved 9,273 people just in December, making it the most, I believe, the most total attendance in a singular month for Stardom, which is incredible.
Ever.
It's also ever, I believe so. I believe so. Which is wild. 9,207 in November as well. In terms of their average attendance, 664, which is slightly down from the 721 average of 2023. But again, 2023 had 16 more shows than Stardom ran this year. Highest attendance, obviously 4,023. Lowest attendance, 215. So, who do you think wrestled the most matches this year? 126 shows on the docket for Stardom this year. Who do you think wrestled the most shows?
Hanan.
You think Hanan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. Who do you think had the most wins?
Micah.
Okay. And who do you think had the most losses?
Tam. It's always, for some reason, it's always Tam.
It's always Tam. It is always Tam. It's not Tam. You'll be glad to know. So in terms of most matches, 126 shows. Again, it is worth noting. May Sarah wrestled the most matches.
With no knee pads.
With no knee pads. It still baffles me, that. Doing bloody drop kicks off the apron. What are you doing, you psycho? 116 matches for May Sarah this year. Most wins was indeed Micah, 76 wins, which is the most wins in a calendar year for anyone in Stardom. So quite the achievement for Micah. Most losses, Sayaka Kurora, who lost 88 of her matches this year. Not quite as many as Yuna Mizumori lost the year before, which was 91, but still significantly. Just out of interest, we'll do singles matches and then we'll wrap this baby up. Who do you think had the most singles matches this year?
Mayu Iwatani.
Okay. Who do you think had the most single match wins? I'll just tell you now, there's two people.
Micah.
And
Micah and Tam. Yeah, let's throw that in
there. Suck up. Most losses.
Most losses. Let's go with Aya Sakura.
Aya Sakura. Okay. So in 2024, the most singles matches was Rani Yagami. 26 singles matches.
That's why she's got so good so fast, folks.
That's why she's got so good so fast. Down from 36 last year from Himeka, but that did include her retirement gauntlet. Most wins was indeed Micah with 17 and Hanan, which I think is quite apt considering she's got a move called 17. Most losses, it was poor Rian. Poor Rian. 25.
Gang sign throwing Rian.
Gang sign throwing Rian. I also had a look at the overall because I was just really intrigued. So most matches, most wins, and most losses are all obviously Mayu Iwatani because she's been there forever. 944 matches she's wrestled in Stardom now. 457 wins and 426 losses, which is just wild. Who's got the most title match wins though in Stardom history?
Title match wins in Stardom history. You're talking like all together, red, white.
All together.
I'm gonna say Mayu because she's been there the longest. Between Goddess, High Speed, 2 white belt runs, 2 red belt runs. Although those red belt runs weren't. There was a 5 on there, and then she got hurt in Tony Storm. I'm still gonna say Mayu.
Okay, she's had the most title matches, 104. Not the most successful ones though.
Is it the Teo? Natsuko Teo? Because she had like 84 high speed champ. Okay.
It is not. Io Shirai. Mr. Atkins put Io just as I said it. Io Shirai had 71 successful title matches. She's not wrestled in Stardom since 2018,
5 years,
which is quite an achievement, really. Who do you think, and this is just random for absolutely no reason but my own amusement now, all-time 3, 4, 5, and 6 ways, who do you think's had the most matches?
The Flying German.
It's not the Flying German. It's not the Flying German.
That was Bozill's mass name, wasn't the Flying German? Azumi.
Correct. 72.
Yeah, she's great at them.
Who do you think's lost the most 3, 4, 5, 6? If you get this, I'll be amazed, by the way. Because I was like, really? Yeah. So who do you think?
Koguma.
It's not Koguma.
Who is it?
Ruaka.
That's random.
53. She's lost. Anyway, all those stats are currently up on our Twitter page if you fancy having a look at that. Just quickly before we go off the air, it is worth pointing out that the 3rd of January sees Stardom go to the Tokyo Garden Theatre in Ariake for New Year Dream. Of course, it will see Tay Conti or Tay Mello making her return to the ring. She will be teaming with Mina Shirakawa against Tekla and Ring of Honor's Athena. That should be really, really good. And Athena did tease that she will be staying in Stardom a little bit longer. So that's very exciting as well. We have got just a rundown of the card that we've got at the moment. Again, no Saya Kamatani, no Starlight Kid, no Syuri on this card at the moment. Rian and Hanoka versus Mizuki Kato and Yuma Makoto. Nanami and Lady C versus Saya Ida and Momokogo. Hina and Rani Yagami versus Zones and Soy. Mina Shirakawa and Tay Mello versus Tekla and Athena. A high-speed battle royal. Saki Kashima, the low-speed champion. Yuna Mizumori, Waka Tsukiyama, Kohaku, and Matoi. Hanan and Manami versus Ruaka and Rina. Happy to see Manami back in a Stardom ring. Sendai Girls Junior title, which we talked about earlier. Chi-Chi, the champion, defending against Aya Sakura. Azumi Miyawamasaki and Mei Seira versus Mayu Iwatani, Koguma, and Hazuki. That is the match that you need to be checking out. That is going to be brilliant. Cosmic Angels, Sioriano, Natsupoi, and Sayaka Kurora versus Dump Matsumoto, Zap, and Natsuko Tora. Semi-main as it is currently listed, Micah and Hanako Cup High Mate versus Team 200 kilograms, Yu and Chihiro Hashimoto. And then obviously Tam Nakano versus Unagi Sayaka. That show is live on pay-per-view, I believe, with English commentary as well. Stardom will be releasing the streaming details of that very, very soon with the link as well. In the meantime, Matt, unless there's anything you would like to add to the end of this absolutely gargantuan podcast.
Yeah, folks, just because this is the last Stardom cast you're going to get for this year, I just want to say big thank you. This is on a personal and a professional level. This has been the best year of my life. And a lot of it has to do with what we've accomplished on this Stardom cast. I have been ass since I was a teenager chasing this pro wrestling dream of mine. And I hit a lot of bumps in the road, getting certain places when it comes to certain things and actual in the ring. And my big dream with pro wrestling was I just want my name known worldwide. Obviously, different sports are bigger everywhere. Pro wrestling is a universal language, and I always make mention. A lot of times I go look at numbers, and I've been looking at the numbers the past couple months. The fact that we have thousands upon thousands of downloads outside of England, outside of Canada, outside of the United States, in Denmark, Germany. There's people I talk to all over the world that on a daily basis that listen to this podcast, and kind of finally took a step back. And I was like, holy shit, I did it. This is the year that I'm realizing that I'm saying this in my head. And I don't mean to plug your books, but it's going to come off like that. This is the year that I finally stopped chasing my dream, and I've honestly started living my dream. And I can't say thank you enough. I realized that I literally just quote. By the way, buy Rob Goodwin's books over on Amazon, Chasing the Dream and Living the Dream, to kind of break it up, because I might get a little emotional here. But no, I've been busting my balls to try to get my name out there, and the fact that I've been able to do it on this podcast, and the fact that who would have thought a year and a half ago that Rob would come over to the United States, that we would actually meet, and the fact that we would have our picture on a can of beer, thanks to our friends over at Funk Brewing, and the fact that we're able to do a live podcast, and the fact that it might be a yearly thing, and if all goes well, we're going to be in Japan next year covering all these shows. That's the plan, and we're going to be in Vegas next year, and this has just been truly remarkable. It really, really is. I mean, every day I wake up and I'm literally living my dream every day, finally being able to accomplish what I've been wanting to accomplish since I was 14 years old in the world of pro wrestling. So again, it's the best year of my life. Thank you to everybody there. I'm so glad Andy Hedder is part of this, because he's been on the road with me for years doing the tag team thing. And it just, he can tell you how many times we were promised certain things that we never got. And that's just pro wrestling. And brother, I can't say the biggest thanks to you for giving me this opportunity 2 years ago, and letting me kind of go off with my crazy ideas that were like, all right, let's see what happens. And it's just, and I think we've been doing well. I think that we've been doing really well. But the fact that we have worldwide exposure, and that we're like #1 in Denmark, and we were like #2 in Germany, it's just like, do they even speak the language? It's like, I barely speak English. But seriously, from the bottom of my heart, guys, I just want to say thank you. I love all of you. And this is literally a dream come true. So thank you.
Yeah, just to echo Matt saying, I can't put it any better than Matt. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. It really does mean, it's so humbling, and we hope you all have a fantastic new year. You stay safe, you have a great time, and you come back rejuvenated, ready for some Stardom and Marigold Wrestling. Just want to point out, we have a brand new listener, apparently, in Sperif, who's been following the podcast for a grand total of 2 days. But your enthusiasm and knowledge are a joy to listen to. Keep up the good work, gents, and thank you for the stream. Thank you very, very much, Sperif. It means a lot to us. Thomas Bauer, you guys will all keep up the good work. You guys are earning all the love. Thank you very much, Thomas. Orchard, have a great new year. Keep it up. Thank you. Misfit Wrestling Podcast. There's a reason you guys got nominated on YouTube Wrestling Show of the Year. Thank you very much. That was really nice. Thank you. Massively appreciate that, Misfit. Thank you. But yeah, Mida French here. You are the first podcast I listened to in English without video. Congrats for your work. Wow, thank you, Mida. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's awesome.
Dude, it's wild. It's like I said, man, every day is like Christmas to me, man. And it's just the fact I get to do this with you. And I know there are some of my friends, the old school friends of mine, that are going to listen to this. And the fact that Rob was with us for 4 days in Philadelphia, and we made him an honorary member of Old Forge, which is hard to do. I got friends of mine that have been friends of mine for decades that aren't there, but the fact that Rob dealt with drunken Uncle Paul, and he let me chop him, and and the fact
forearm me in the throat,
and he survived a Minoru Suzuki in the elevator thing as well. He turned around, and all of a sudden there's Minoru Suzuki, and everyone almost shit their pants.
None of us, not one of us, said a word. Because I was like, he did not look. He was not vibing at all at 1 o'clock in the morning in Philadelphia. So we were like, we're not going to say a word. We were. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this stream. We'll be back again in the new year. I do just want to take a quick second just to say the Stardomcast End of Year Awards will be open on the 31st of December. Please keep an eye out on our social media and the website as well, where you'll be able to vote for all of your favorite categories. Again, that will be up 31st of December. And we'll have a think about when we're actually going to close it. But yes, 31st of December. I ordinarily release it on the 29th, but I found that there's quite a lot of recency bias if we do it on the same day as Dream Queendom. So I want to give everyone a little bit of time just to sort of digest those matches and then sort of put their votes in. That's mainly the reason for the delay. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for an incredible year. You are all absolutely incredible, and we massively appreciate seriously every single one of you. So thank you so much. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. We are physically everywhere. So just type us in and you will find us. If you want to leave us a comment and a 5-star review, that would massively help us out as well. It just helps us be exposed to more people and helps us to spread the word of Joshi to even more people. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/the Stardom Cast for literally hundreds of bonus episodes, as well as all of these episodes early and ad-free for as little as a solitary $1 a month. Just for you, obviously talkjoshi.com, the website where you can find all of the stats, history, all of our archived episodes. It is a place where I'm trying to make it really easy to get into Stardom for new fans. So if you want to go and check that out, it's all there for you, all completely free. Just go and check it out, and hopefully it is a useful resource. And yeah, if you want to find us on social media, you can at the Stardom Cast, unless it's Blue Sky or Instagram or Threads, in which case it's Talk Joshi. And then, yeah, you can talk to me on Twitter at Real Rob Goodwin. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. We hope you enjoyed Dream Queendom. And Matt, signs off, good sir.
Questions, comments, suggestions, anything you need from me, Matt Turner OF, on the Instagram, on the Twitter, and on the Blue Sky. If you want to shoot me an email, the email address is thestardomcast22@gmail.com. Folks, don't forget 2 very important things. Number 1, buy poi and buy peace. Right? Is it buy peace or peace buy?
Goodbye peace, I think. The power bomb from Mason. I think it's goodbye peace or
I was
something
trying to throw it
like
in there
that.
and I messed it up. Anywho, folks, we greatly appreciate your support. Can't do it without you, because like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast. Because when all us together, everybody's different. Everybody's special.
Happy New Year, guys.